going to take this ball away from you. We're going to take this ball through you to the end zone. I'm going to separate you from this ball. And there's not one thing. There's nothing. Nothing.
Just not a thing.
And there's absolutely nothing. There's not a thing you can do about it.
We're going to do everything in our power to turn this ball into this ball.
This is Oklahoma football.
Magnificent day for football at Memorial Stadium in Norman. Baylor comes to town with a 1-5 conference record. The Sooners unbeaten, and there could be a clinching party in that OU locker room a little later today. Bob Carpenter and Dean Blevins, we welcome you to Oklahoma football on Cox. It's November 15th. We got the shirt sleeves going today, buddy. All is well right now, isn't it, in Sooner Nation?
Yeah, it really is. This is a game you just kind of want to keep going if you're Oklahoma. And, yeah, this is nice. The place will be packed, and you hear the band, it's rocking.
And it could be a clincher for the Sooners today as far as finally nailing down officially the Big 12 South Championship. And considering where the program was a couple of years ago, it's a remarkable accomplishment.
Well, when John Blake left, I believe there have been 5 consecutive non-win seasons, and so Bob Stoops takes over. That first year was really a turnaround, but you kind of mark that one aside. And this means if they go ahead and win the conference championships, that means it would be 3 out of 4, of course, with one national job. Just incredible.
And great balance by the Oklahoma football team, both on defense and on offense. Nobody is running his offense in the nation any better than these days is Jason White.
Well, his pass efficiency number shows that, but he's able to distribute the ball in any form. He finds all the windows to get rid of it. He can throw short. He is very accurate in the intermediate game. And Bob, he's as good a deep ball thrower as I've seen in the college game.
And Chuck Long, who knows a little bit about quarterbacks, told me yesterday this kid is absolutely fearless. And I guarantee you, he's probably the least concerned about the Heisman watch. We care a lot more that Jason White wins it than he himself does.
You know, I agree with you, but it's remarkable if that's the case. You never see that.
Yeah, and I think that speaks volumes about what kind of kid he is, and also volumes about what kind of people he has to throw the football to. Mark Clayton already a record-setting season, and he's getting better every week.
Well, he's a remarkable talent. There you can see him. He's not a big player. He's quick, not the fastest guy in the world, but he has a huge heart. And Bob Stoops always talks about him sort of exemplifying the way this team plays. Extra yards, play tough, play smart. That's him.
And the great thing about Oklahoma's defense, speed as well. Tommy Harris and the guys up front certainly exemplify that.
Well, you just saw that quick takeoff there, and he is the quickest down lineman in America. Here you see him toting the pigskin. He even changes hands with it. But he's one of those guys that when he was recruited out of high school, everybody in the country wanted him. And then after the first day he played here, they said he's better than that.
Well, Baylor's best offense today may be when they return kickoffs after Oklahoma touchdowns. We haven't really talked about them that much, but they do have a good kickoff returner, a great punter. So for these Bears of Waco, what are their keys today?
Well, I think that they have to be multi-dimensional. They have to run and pass, mix it up. Oklahoma's defense is so good. If you're just able to do one or the other, they stuff you. They've got to do the best they can at stopping the run. That's not Oklahoma's strength. And then the bottom thing there is don't quit. Last week, A&M did. I don't think this club will.
Yeah, Baylor's a team used to being in undermanned situations like this. And Oklahoma, meanwhile, this is a football program that has seldom ever lost its focus under Bob Stoops.
That's one of the more remarkable things. That's the key to this game. Limited turnovers, that's the only way that Oklahoma loses this game, or really, I think, the next couple of games, and then avoid injuries. You just hope to walk off with the same guys that walked out.
Well, right now, it feels like a perfect November Saturday for Oklahoma football. Sooners try to clinch the division today. We're glad you're with us for this delayed telecast, and it'll be fun as Oklahoma takes on Baylor. Oklahoma 10-0 on the year. Baylor is 3-7. Trey DiCarlo is ready for the opening kickoff. It is headed about right to the goal line, where it's taken by Robert Quiroga. He's the Big 12 Player of the Week because of his kickoff returns, and we just saw why. 6 of them for 178 against Texas Tech a week ago, including a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, and it was Trey DiCarlo with the tackle on special teams.
Well, he's been a great kicker, and he's up for a lot of awards. That one was to the goal line, and a lot of didn't even run it back. But anyway, he's been a good one for the Sooners. You don't see many teams start against Oklahoma's coverage teams at the 33.
Aaron Karras, the quarterback for the Baylor Bears, a 6'2 junior out of Spring, Texas. They open in the eye with a couple of wideouts to the right. Inside give and decent yardage on first down for Baylor. Teddy Lehman there with Gayron Allen helping to make the stop. Rashad Armstrong is the guy who normally carries the ball for them. He has 1,602 yards in his 2 years in Baylor. That is a Baylor record. Jonathan Evans is their fullback, who has the primary blocking assignment. Ball just over the 35. The Oklahoma defense giving up only 93 yards a game on the ground. It's Armstrong again out to the left side. Tripped up and falling to the 40-yard line. Brandon Everidge came up from free safety to get a piece of him.
Everidge's shoulder has not given him as much problem this year as in the past. Therefore, he's been able to be a more consistent tackler.
Rashad Armstrong averaging about 4.5 yards a carry with 6 touchdowns. We have our first third down situation. And Baylor is right around 30% in third down conversions this year. They're going to flare both backs, and the pass across the middle, nearly intercepted, broken up by Brodney Poole at free safety.
Well, 3 and outs, that's what that defense does a lot, and they do it early in ball games, which really helps the offense get good field position. Of course, it won't be quite as good this time around because of the long kickoff return. But Brodney Poole is an outstanding player. He has emerged here in the last few weeks. We'll talk about him, but the freshman is really good.
Daniel Sepulveda, a left-footed kicker, and he is something. He's a freshman, averaging 44.5 yards a kick. And the Sooners will have it out to about the 18-yard line on the punt return. And Oklahoma will take over there. We're less than 2 minutes in. Sooners ready for their first possession. Mark Clayton in motion on Oklahoma's first play of the game. It's a Jason White give to Kewan Jones. Sooners starting from their own 18 after the Antonio Perkins punt return. Justin Crooks came up to help make the stop for the Baylor Bears. Oklahoma averaging 178 yards a game on the ground, almost 300 through the air, and last week's game inflating those totals up to about 476 yards a game in total offense. White with time. Clayton right side, space to work with. First down Sooners as the ball is out over the 30-yard line. Derek Cash on the Baylor stop, but you give Mark that kind of room. Everybody's talking about yak this year, yards after catch, Dean. It's becoming a fascinating stat in college football.
Yes, it is, and there's guys who do it really well. You saw the wide receivers, and there you see, look at that young offensive line.
Amazing. Junior, sophomore, junior from left tackle to right tackle. First and 10 at the 31. White alone in the backfield. Angling it up the left side, and that ball is caught. Brandon Jones is inside the 35 of Baylor.
If anyone wants to know why this is an exceptional offense, that's the only play you need to see. This team has become a vertical team, and this is a pro pass, and it's a great catch too. I mean, that's big time right there.
Great concentration there by Brandon. And for him, that's his 37th catch of the year. He's up over 550 yards. It's Jones now moving from left to right. To the left side. And Kiwan improvising beautifully down inside the 25. Didn't look like he had a whole lot to work with there. Maurice Lane came up from his free safety spot. He's Baylor's #1 tackler from free safety, a 5'11" sophomore who goes 184, and he's got a great future here in the Big 12.
Well, the only problem with that is, of course, he's tackling ball carriers and receivers 10 yards downfield.
A lot of things you can do on 2nd and 4. Sooners in the eye.
White's very good at checking off. That's what he's doing here.
All day to throw. Angling for the corner. It is a touchdown. Brandon Jones on the receiving end. And for Jones, his 2nd catch of the day, his 7th touchdown of the year. And now Jason White has tied the Oklahoma single-season touchdown pass record.
Well, great check off. Brandon Jones on a little corner route. Didn't have much separation there, but as we mentioned off the top, in intermediate throws and a longer throw like that, Jason White is as good as you'll see in the college game. Those first 2 throws right there, those last 2 are Heisman-esque.
And DeCarlo drills it through. He's now 59 out of 61 on the season, and it didn't take Oklahoma long to score, just over 2 minutes.
They've been a great first possession team. The offensive line has done a great job all season long at protection, and that's what happened here. He got protection, got one-on-one on the corner. Perfect route, perfect protection, perfect throw, 7 points.
Well, that's Dean Blevins. I'm Bob Carpenter. Chris Plank is also with us today down on the sideline. Didn't take long, did it, Chris?
No, and it was quick strike. Dean, good point on the checkoff. Jason White noticed that Brandon Jones had man coverage wide open. But you guys talked about the depth chart along the offensive side of the football. Just 2 seniors got that depth chart for the University of Oklahoma. Of course, Ronaldo works out with a bruised back. But I find it interesting, Dean, that one of those seniors is Jason White. And he said he doesn't know yet if he's coming back because of the medical hardship. But he did say you'd be the first one to know, Dino. So what is it? Is Jason White coming back or not?
You know, I think it's, I'm not jumping out there because I think it's 50-50. Jason, we've kind of had a running joke all season, Bob, because, you know, can you imagine this offense? You know, it looks like they may get a freshman or 2 game breakers, and, you know, they're already good enough. They'll only be better with a year's more experience, but he would be awesome. And, you know, he's going to have a chance to go to the pros, of course, and I think that it's just like anyone else. He's going to see how highly he would be drafted and then make that decision. There's an issue with the knees, but you can play that one either way. But I'd say right now, I wish I could say more than 50-50. That's all I'd go with.
A short kick by DeCarlo. Kicking the ball away from Robert Quiroga. This time it's Matt Johnson. And he wiggles out beyond the 25. Ball appeared to be on the carpet there for a while. Good coverage by Oklahoma on special teams. Looked like Smokey Hurst was right in the middle of that thing. And the Baylor Bears will get their offense going again, their 2nd possession after going 3 and out in less than 2 minutes of the first quarter.
Very good adjustment. First kickoff went to the goal line. They returned it out to the 35-ish. This time they say, nah, I'm not going to do that. We'll kick it high and soft, and 25-yard line's better.
From the gun, inside give. Oklahoma's defense smothering Rashad Armstrong. Lynn Magruder, who backs up Dusty at right defensive tackle. You'll see a lot of Sooners in there today. The depth chart may bear little resemblance 3 hours from now what it does right now.
Probably will, but you never know after last weekend's Mike Lupica 77-0 ball game, and that's what you're referring to. We'll see how that one goes. Oklahoma will be in good shape, but that's the biggest decision they have to make today.
No gain for the Bears on first down. And a little play action out to the left it goes.
That's a rare miss of a tackle by Gayrod Allen out in space, number 48. He's been a pretty solid, fundamentally, he's a really good player, and that's why he's able to go in as a third-teamer and replace the All-America candidate Lance Mitchell at middle linebacker, but he was juked there, presenting a third and short.
And that was a redshirt freshman, Trent Shelton, out of Fort Worth on the receiving end. The 3rd and 2 at the Baylor 33. They've got to get some first downs established early and get some confidence against this Oklahoma defense. Pretty solid stop there by Brandon Everidge. Teddy Lehman also in there, and the Bears appear to be short. And the spot will leave it short.
You know, this defense is so ferocious, and I realize it's just Baylor, but when you line up at 3rd and 2, you can tell by the crowd reaction, no one is surprised. You know, it's almost like you expect to stop every opponent on 3rd and 2, even if it's a run.
Antonio Perkins averaging about 14 yards per return, and of course 4 of them have gone the distance this year. So it's a pretty interesting matchup between one of the best return men in the country and one of the best young kickers in Daniel Sepulveda. He's number 2 in the Big 12, and he's had 21 kicks of 50 yards or more this year.
That's fine if they have good hang time. If not, that even helps Perkins more.
This one is really hammered back to the 12. Perkins, one move, gets away from the first wave, and he'll stumble out to the 20-yard line.
But that's the point right there. You saw the running room that Perkins had on that one, and it's, I mean, net yards is really all that matters in college football.
Well, they netted a few right there to the Oklahoma 20. Less than 6 minutes in, it's 7-0 for the #1 team in the nation. First down for the Sooners at their 20. Dan Townsend in front of the ball carrier. We may have had a face mask back there on the Kewan Jones carry. The Baylor Bears were pawing away and reaching for the ball runner. We may have had a face mask.
Tell you what, if they line up in that defense very often, Jason White will hurt them. They had to the wide side of the field. They had a lot of room. It was Rankins who had man coverage, and looking from our perspective, which is different than looking from down there, but this is there's lots of green stuff down there.
Yes,
that's not a good sign.
Oklahoma doing some shifting. Guy Morris already concerned. His team down 7-0. Oklahoma really given a wide look out to the left, and a little slow in developing was that play. Mark Clayton was out there, ball was behind him, and he wasn't quite looking for it yet.
Yeah, miscommunication on the route. Those two don't do that very often. J.D. Runnels, as you mentioned, fullback motion. He has become he is just a he's beyond solid. Number 38 is a very versatile fullback, and he'll become a superstar before his days are over.
Jason will roll out left. Out over the 30, Brandon Jones escaping, and nearly to the 40-yard line. He'll get about 13 or 14 on that 2nd and 5 play.
Well, that's what Oklahoma thought they had when they signed this guy, and he's been off playing baseball a little bit. He's been inconsistent, but he's really emerged this year as a big-time player. More of a deep threat than anything else, but he's a strong, physical player. Great job here of getting upfield as soon as he catches it, whipping that head around and seeing what defense is in front of him, and that's big-time running.
Averaging about 15 yards a catch. Great adjustment right there to escape the corner. Kind of left Anthony Arline just looking at some space there. And Oklahoma gets 3 or 4 on first down. Kewan Jones came into this game on a pretty good roll. 274 yards over his last 3 games, with Ronaldo Works still nursing that back bruise. White looking out of the eye. And again, Clayton Ball well overthrown that time.
Good job on the corner. He jammed Clayton up, and that was just enough to throw the play off. But they went back to what we talked about, Bob, a moment ago, is getting their receiver in one-on-one coverage to the field side where he has lots of room. Baylor did a good job there, but I think that that's a spot Oklahoma will look to expose.
Bears are giving up about 260 yards a game through the air. And again, all day to throw. And to the near side, it's Mark Bradley this time over midfield. And an Oklahoma first down. Jason White has his choice of a talented array of receivers. And when I talked to Chuck Long about these guys the other day, Dean, the one thing he told me that really stuck in my mind, he said, our receivers are so fast. They get into their routes so quickly. It's almost like Jason's out there running a drill and not working against the secondary.
Well, that's good, because that means the offensive line does not need to protect as long, and especially when you get into blitzing, he's able to release that a little bit quicker. Mark Bradley, terrific story there. We'll tell you in a moment.
Yeah, not a bad passer when called upon either, huh? White with a deep drop and a long, long look. It is caught for an Oklahoma touchdown. And it's Mark Clayton with his 13th of the year.
We talked about the deep throwing from Jason White, and when you have on the other end number 9, that's bad news if you've given up a step in the secondary.
Jacob Rice to snap it, Matt McCoy to hold it, and Trey DeCarlo to drill it. And Oklahoma now on top 14-0, and we're only 8 minutes into the game.
You know, the Sooners have a great third down percentage on conversion rate. This was a third down situation. He was looking to Clayton all the way. There were no reads on this, and he gets his man straight down the field. Looked like it was cover 2, but regardless of what it was, that again goes back to the point of being a great deep ball thrower. He hits so many people in stride. And Bob, it's not only the deep balls, it's the crossing routes and basically any other route that he throws, which helps runners not have to stop and reach back, and it makes it much more difficult for defensive backs to tackle him.
And Chris Plank, 146 yards through the air for OU already.
Not a bad start, on the offensive side of the football. Great start defensively, too, guys. Bob Stoops even found time to come over and congratulate his defensive line. Just one real phrase: keep it up. That's all they need to do, guys.
Jonathan Jackson, Tommy Harris, Dusty Dvorak, Dan Cody. They've been doing it all year long. A couple of great senior linebackers behind them. A very good secondary.
It's a complete team. You know, there really are no weaknesses. Some areas may be stronger than others, and the defensive line has emerged just to be just dominant. And they've improved so much on the rushing the passer that it's changed the whole team. You know, you had a new record there. Mark Clayton, all-time receiver in terms of yardage. He passes Antoine Savage.
At the 9, it's Robert Quiroga. Angling left side, squirting his way through some tacklers, and he gives the Bears pretty good field position out beyond the 35. He doesn't appear to have blinding speed, but he has a way of getting through some tight spots.
Have you seen Wes Welker play? He's down at Texas Tech. He's out of Heritage Hall in Oklahoma City, and people thought he was too small, too slow. Well, he didn't test out. You know, he didn't project by some, but he's a similar player to that.
You know what? The Hall of Fame is full of guys
That's
like
right.
that.
How about Steve Largent?
Little play action and a swing to the near side for Baylor to Marcus Roberts. And great yardage for them inside the Oklahoma 45. Dan Cody chasing downfield. Rodney Poole also from free safety. Marcus Roberts, he'll be right up around 200 yards on the year with that reception. He's caught a couple of touchdown passes. And the Bears on the move with 6.5 to go first quarter. Oklahoma on top 14-0. That's Shelton in motion to the far side. Little inside give, and that's Anthony Krieg. Average on the stop. Anthony Krieg, a 6-foot junior out of Pflugerville, Texas. Baylor Bears on the ground this year, rushing for about 107 yards a game. Most of their damage has come through the air at about 173. It looks like Krieg took a shot or two on his way through the Oklahoma line.
Baylor is doing something. They're on pace to break records from what happened a week ago. A&M never crossed the 50. A&M had 3 first downs, so Baylor is going to bust the first one, and they may break that second one here soon.
Little play action to Armstrong. Swing to the right side. And first down yardage for the Bears. J.T. Thompson on the receiving end. Forced out by Dante Nicholson.
This is a nice plan offensively for Baylor. They weren't able to convert the first 2 series on 3rd and short, but they've been able to here to get their guys out in space.
.46 total yards for the Bears so far. 157 already for Oklahoma.
Bob, you talked about focus earlier, that Oklahoma has done a great job this year of going in heavy favorites and focusing every week. It's obvious out there today that there'll be great effort, but this is not a Texas or the Oklahoma State game focus.
First down at the Sooner 32.5. Looked like they were checking off at the line of scrimmage. And then Sooners all over the line. We'll see if somebody from Baylor moved.
Looked like McDonald was wanting to get a...
And the Bears were expected to mix things up a little bit today. Sean Bell, a freshman redshirt quarterback out of China Spring, Texas, getting some playing time early here. They were not expected to run their regular guys out there all day against the Sooners. Bell has thrown 35 passes the entire year, completing 23. And under some pressure, incomplete at the Oklahoma 40. Jonathan Jackson from defensive end, who's had 23 quarterback hurries this year, putting some pressure on there.
Well, those defensive ends can put pressure on you. Dan Cody is terrific, and also Jonathan Jackson will play in the NFL. And it doesn't matter if you're running a screen pass or what you're running. These guys can chase you down, and if nothing else, if they don't get to you for a sack, they do just that, hurry.
That can't be a fun feeling. Your back's to the defense, and you're waiting for an underthrown screen pass. Out to the left side, caught short of the 35. On the reception there for Baylor is Trent Shelton, who seems to be their primary target right now. Dante Nicholson up again from strong safety.
Dante Nicholson is the junior college transfer who was originally a safety. But at the beginning of the year, Mike Stoops saw that they needed to make some adjustments, and especially when Lance Mitchell was hurt, they moved him up closer to the line of scrimmage, allowing them to put in Rodney Poole at safety, and that's been a major bonus for them.
And Dante second on the team in tackles coming in. 3rd and 16 now. Baylor has to get to the Oklahoma 22 to keep this drive moving. Time and a short throw out to the right side. Nothing doing there. Gayron Allen was right there on the pass defense out there in the right flat. And it'll be in 4th and long. And if the Bears decide to try to kick one here, it'll be a long attempt for Kenny Webb, who's 0 for 3 beyond the 50.
Well, this would be around 53 yards. Sooner defense really likes the shutouts. I think you saw last weekend they really want to shut people out, so they decided to punt this one.
Yeah, Daniel Sepulveda will try to nail Oklahoma deep. And he really pooches the ball off the left side of his foot. A terrible angle. And when they set this thing up, this ball may be out to or beyond the Sooner 30-yard line. A net of 8 yards. It's 14-0 Oklahoma. Down for Oklahoma. And from the 30 out to the 36, maybe further. Luke Roth came up to get him, and Oklahoma continues to get some good yardage here. Very workmanlike performance by the Sooners If they do a few things on this drive, they will be up over 200 total yards in the first quarter.
And they will perhaps have 21 on the board. That's getting ahead of ourselves, but the reason I bring that up is that's what they had against Texas A&M a week ago in that route.
Mark Clayton to the right of Jason White. Then he comes near side to receive it, looking for some room, did a little juking, got himself a first down, and it's pretty routine for the Sooners right now, out to the 43-yard line before DB Matt Jack Johnson came up to get him.
You know, it's kind of fun to watch number 38. We talked about him earlier, J.D. Runnels, the fullback. He is one of the finest blockers you'll ever find, and usually watching a blocker is not a lot of fun, but there's an art to it. And Oklahoma first downs 7-2. A&M had the 3 we mentioned earlier.
Clayton in motion again. Jason White dealing with absolutely no pressure so far. And out to the near side, it's Will Peoples. Another Sooner first down, this one inside the 35.
You're right, he had no pressure. Even when he has some pressure, Jason White has done a great job working through his progressions. Look at him, look right. First receiver, second receiver, comes down. I believe that would be to his third receiver, and then hits him on the money.
Will Peoples with his 14th catch of the year. Former honorable mention all-conference player. 1st and 10 for Oklahoma at the Baylor 37. White looking and lofting it over the top. Would have been a touchdown to Dante Hickson. It was a little high.
White pass is incomplete.
Dante's going to get back to the huddle, and Jason will say, man, I didn't know that was you. I wouldn't have made you accelerate, and I thought you were taller. That was a ball that should have been a touchdown that he underthrew. He doesn't miss those very often.
Right. And if we know Jason White, he'll say, my bad, I'll
Sure.
get it to you next time.
Sure. Team loves him.
2nd and 10 at the 37. J.D. Runnels trying to lead the way in there. There's good yardage to the outside.
I think they wanted him to. There's, in fact, you see, I think that was Cale Gundy talking to his runner. He's the running backs coach, the former Sooner great quarterback. I think he's saying get north and south because, as you mentioned, it was a big hole, but not as many yards as they would have hoped. Sooners have been a great third down team. We'll see what they do here.
Yeah, Dante made his shift to the outside. Oklahoma good on its only third down opportunity of the day for the season. The Sooners are at 46% third down conversions. This is 3rd and 6. That's Clayton on the move. White going and looking that way. Clayton all alone. He gets to the marker and gets another Oklahoma first down. He was looking at 3 defenders out there, and he figured, I just got to get to that pylon, and that he did.
Those guys do a great job of just sucking up those markers on the outside. When I say that, Clayton's going to make this first down. He sees the orange out there. He knows where he has to get. He has to struggle to get there, but he's going to make that first down. All the receivers are.
2.5 minutes to go, first quarter. Oklahoma has already scored on passes of 25 and 47 yards. Is another one coming? This one into the end zone, and it's too far. We've got a flag. Intended receiver out there was Brandon Jones.
Well, I don't see the Baylor
by Anthony Arline.
Yeah, sorry, Bob. I didn't see the bench going nuts on the Baylor side. It looked like it could have been an uncatchable ball. And Jason White would just as soon stay out a little bit deeper, not because he wants numbers, but because you get into a compressed field. It's not bad back on the 10-yard line, but sometimes if you have it down there inside the 5, you would just as soon keep it back where you have a little more yardage to work with.
Sooners have outscored their opponents this year in the first quarter 115-27, including their 2 scores today. It's called the 1st and goal with the ball right at the 10.
Whoa.
And Jason ran right in to Baylor's number 33, Derek Cash.
Whoa. You had a freight train going one way and a freight train coming the other way. Watch Jason White. He thought he had something set up, and he probably did had there not been a blitz coming his way. He's thinking, get around, turn your head back to the line of scrimmage and find that receiver one-on-one, which he's thinking would be an easy touchdown, but it turned out to be just the opposite.
Third leading tackler, Jason Cash. He just got, or rather Derek Cash, just got his second sack of the year. Second and 19 after the loss of 9. Well, now he's got that wide field, that big field he was looking for maybe.
Blitz.
Pressure. Ball tipped. Almost picked off by Quincy Jenkins, a freshman who plays the defensive line out of Trinidad, Texas, a freshman who goes 6'1", 281.
Well, Baylor had Oklahoma's number again, and both of the last two plays where they have had OU's number, both blitzes. So Jason White, along with other quarterbacks like Josh Heupel, will tell you they want blitzes, but you have to be able to take advantage of them every couple of plays.
White changing the formation.
No blitz.
Looking down the middle, and it is again a little bit too far for Brandon Jones.
I said no blitz, but then from the backside there was a corner blitz. I don't think that had anything to do with the overthrow, though. It's pretty good defense by Baylor.
Well, Oklahoma had a first and goal from the 10. The ball's now at the 19 on 4th down.
I've always wondered what kickers are thinking over there. You know, when the score gets up 14-0 and you're favorite, don't you think they're kind of thinking, it's okay if you score, but if you don't, I wouldn't mind getting a pop at 3.
36-yard attempt for DiCarlo. Low kick, but a straight one. He's 6 out of 7 between 30 and 39 this year, and he's 18 of 19 overall. Oklahoma leads it 17-0. We check in again with Chris Plank.
All right, guys, Jason White took a couple of hard shots on that last drive. He jocked off the field. Everything seems to be okay, but you wonder if that might lead a coach to pull the trigger a little bit early and maybe go to the backup quarterback. We'll keep an eye on it for you.
Thank you, Chris. Chris Plank roaming the sidelines for us today on a picture-perfect November football afternoon. The Sooner Schooner is on the move. The stadium is full here in Norman. And an athletic program, not just the football team, that's riding high. Joe Castiglione stopped by the booth earlier today telling us about all the great things going on in football, the good things that have happened in baseball as far as the facilities, in track, in soccer. And, of course, we're all excited about Kelvin Sampson's Sooners about ready to get things rolling a little bit south of here.
Absolutely, and Sherry Cole and the women have done an outstanding job. I saw them the other night. They're going to be an improved club, and of course they were a Final Four club a couple of years back.
And we're all going to knock on wood that they stay healthy.
Yeah, but they're you watch them play, they're like the offensive line with all those knee braces. But yeah, you know, Kelvin, you speaking of going to the Final Four, you almost take it for granted sometimes. That's a program.
Hard to do.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they Final Four and then grade 8 back to back.
Here's the kick. Carlo, he's going to pooch it short at the 27.
That's what
that ball was fair caught.
Bob, I think that's really smart. You know, the times that they've kicked it deep, they've given it up at the 33, and I think
Baylor first down at the 27. And again, it's their backup quarterback, Sean Bell, throwing the ball complete. And a gain of about 7 or so out to that left flat. Ball thrown to Rashad Armstrong, who circled out of the backfield there.
Well, you can tell the stars on this club. They've already shown you who they are. But I like what they're doing. I mean, they're moving the ball against Oklahoma. I think what you're seeing more than anything is that they're not coming out timid. And that's what a lot of teams do against an Oklahoma defense that's one of the best in the country. You don't see that in Baylor.
There's Sean Bell. We saw him on the last series. He's out there again, and they've moved the ball better with him in the game. 2nd and 1. Wow, what a great piece of pursuit that was. Derek Strait materialized from that right corner position, and he was in the Baylor backfield immediately.
He just has an innate ability to a great feel for the game, and it was a corner blitz off the top, and he's done that many a time during his career. He'll be missed. There was a friend of mine that said that one of the Texas fans had asked him, when is Strait going to be gone? It's one of those players that seems to linger for a decade.
Well, Well, he's a leader. He's very vocal on that defense, and that was an outstanding tackle for a loss. Bears have it 3rd and 2. And no way to get rid of that ball.
Now, they called that, I don't know if they ran out of time. That play was called dead before it started, I believe, Bob. Yeah.
I'd delay a game on the offense before the snap.
And maybe you say that, you know, you wish the play could have played out. Sometimes in that situation, the lineman just backs away knowing that that whistle has blown. Oklahoma so deep at defensive end. Jonathan Jackson. Now you have Larry Burdines, number 92, and Calvin Thibodeau, 58. They're playing a lot. In fact, they're in the ball game right now.
Yeah, that was Burdine on that play. 3rd and 7 now at the 30. Good time. Now he's stepping up, and the ball was knocked down by Derek Strait just as it left the quarterback's hands on what normally would be an easy little completion.
Well, and he knew what was behind him. We talk about the feel for the game, and Strait knows that if that ball gets behind him or over him, you saw the receiver well past the first down marker. That could have gone for big yardage.
Kelvin Sampson probably looking at that play and saying, what was the vertical on that one?
I think right now he's worried about trying to bring a Tommy Harris in because Kevin Bookout has a
well, 5 yards and a loss of the down. What was a 2nd and 1 is now 4th and long, and the Bears will have to kick it. This ball will be kicked from about their own 15, so Antonio Perkins could get something going here for Oklahoma. Low kick, angling to the sideline, and Perkins thinking about this side. He's got lots of room into the 40, the 30, and he may run out of gas and out of room, but he's inside the Baylor 10. That was great vision, Dean, because he looked up. He saw everybody on the other side of the field. He outran everyone to this side.
Normally you'll see him take that one to the house, but that wasn't quite as easy. But you called it right, and with that he becomes the career leader in punt return yardage, passing Jarrell Jackson. You made a great call of it there, though, Bob. The only thing that they may want him to do is switch hands, and if that's the case, you've done pretty well. He stumbles here. What a fine player. I think it's easy to overlook his cornerback ability because of Derek Strait and because of the fact he is such a sensational return man, but he is a great cornerback.
His longest of the year before that was 30. This one in the air for a corner, and it's caught. Oklahoma with Mark Clayton on the board again. And he continues to shatter records this afternoon.
I looked up at the clock, and it had 27 seconds remaining in the second quarter, thinking that Oklahoma would have to extend it in the second quarter. And a corner route, that's as pretty as it gets. Over the top of the cornerback. Another touchdown. And what can you say about Jason White? Is he running up the score? Is he taking advantage of being able to stay on the field a long time? No. He's thrown the ball outstanding this first half with the 3 touchdowns.
This to make it 24-0. 57-yard punt return. Longest of this afternoon by Antonio Perkins, whose previous long was 84. And he almost had his 8th career touchdown in a punt return. It sets the Sooners up. And in close, they make it 24-0 in a hurry.
Well, you know, it's easy to sit back at home and say, man, those guys are just blowing OU up. But not really, because it's hard to find weaknesses. For example, on that last 27 seconds of the first half, and there are 4 seconds remaining. So within a 23-second span, you saw Oklahoma's defense dominate so that it would be forced to punt. There you see Clayton's yardage, but they get a deep punt. Then you see special teams take over, and then you see the quick strike ability.
2,059 yards in his career now for Mark Clayton. Previous record shattered today of Antoine Savage was 2009.
Clayton needs only 6 more catches to pass Trent Smith, the outstanding tight end. You know, White's done pretty well. He lost Quentin Griffin and he lost Trent Smith, yet this offense is stronger than ever.
Relatively short kick again by DiCarlo. Ball hitting at the 20. Bears didn't cover it, and Oklahoma's acting like they might have been all over that thing. It'll be Baylor's ball, but for a moment it appeared like the Sooners would have it with 3 seconds to go here in the first quarter.
Well, that's one of the things about a kick like that. It's unconventional. A team doesn't have a lot of time to practice that in the return game.
That was one of their deep return men, Matt Johnson, who ended up covering that thing.
The Bears fortunate this quarter. They've laid 2 of them on the turf and recovered both.
Final play of the first quarter coming up. 24-0 Sooners. And it's still Sean Bell in there at quarterback for Baylor. And a quick look out to the right. Broken up by Brandon Everidge, and we go to the second quarter. 25-yard pass, 47, a field goal, and a 9-yard pass. Clayton has scored twice, and Oklahoma leads at 24-0 after 1. (24-0) after 1 quarter here in Norman. But on that last play, a possible injury concern for Oklahoma.
Yeah, Brandon Everidge, and we mentioned it in the first quarter about that shoulder that hasn't been a problem. It is a problem again. He'll be able to play with it, but it does affect his play.
2nd and 10 for Baylor, running out of the I, and the give is to the first man through. That's Jonathan Evans, the fullback. Teddy Lehman, who leads the Sooners in tackles, approaching 90 on the year up to make that stop. Teddy Lehman, an amazing guy. I got into a conversation with Brent Venables about Lehman yesterday. It took me about 10 minutes to get Brent to move on to the next subject. It's just unbelievable, the superlatives. But the thing that impresses me the most is that Teddy Lehman wants to be perfect. He wants to be coached. You can't say that about every kid in college athletics anymore. On a 3rd and 8, out to the near side beyond the 30, and the pass is complete to Trent Shelton of Baylor. Dante Nicholson staying with him. It appears the Bears have their first down. If they don't, it'll be very close. Trent Shelton has caught a handful of balls today. He's been their primary receiver. The Sooners have shut down Robert Kuroga, their great kickoff return guy, who's their leading receiver coming in. I don't remember him catching a ball yet. First down for Baylor. At the Bear 33, just over a minute into the second quarter.
Tommy Harris back in the rotation, number 97.
And Bell gives it off to his running back, Rashad Armstrong. Turned what looked like virtually nothing into a nice gain on first down.
Gayron Allen has done a great job filling in. We looked at number 48 earlier. Let's see how, really, more than anything, it's just a great run. You mentioned Armstrong's ability to not only make people miss, but he's a guy that is not yak. It's yards after contact.
He needed 45 today to reach 1,000 yards. Baylor's only done that 5 times in their history. Everybody chasing the quarterback, and he finds his man on the right side, Dominic Ziegler. Dante Nicholson staying with him at strong safety, and the Bears will move the chains again as they approach midfield.
Hey, this kid's a good player. Sean Bell, the quarterback. You know, I think you mentioned last week he had the big week, no picks, 14 of 18, and that's not an easy throw right there. need a quarterback. Chuck Long was telling me that you like a quarterback who can do a little bit of everything, but ultimately, at least in Oklahoma's offense, you've got to be able to be a pocket passer.
Inside give, and again, it's Rashad Armstrong.
There's a perfect example, folks, of what I was telling you about number 7, Brandon Everidge. He threw a no-hitter at Armstrong, and you're a baseball man. A no-hitter is great in baseball, but it's really bad right there. Look at the non-tackle by number 7, who's coming off right now. Not good news for the Sooners defensively. He's hurt.
Pasha Jackson in there. Dante Nicholson also checking out on what Oklahoma obviously feels is a running situation, and the Bears were about to run out of time on the play clock, and they called a timeout.
The keys for Oklahoma today is to avoid injuries. Well, so far you have the Everidge injury, which he will be able to play through the pain, I am sure. But you have Perkins on that return. I thought that he came off a little tweaked up, and he did. Number 28, the Sooners' great corner and return man. Don't have word on that. I'm sure Chris will get it shortly, but he's been down there talking to the trainers.
One of the keys to the game that Dean Blevins mentioned about an hour ago, avoiding injuries. You don't want to see anything like that happen in a game where you're going to win decisively. 24-0 Sooners. 3 minutes into the second quarter. And the Bears can do some things here on 2nd and 1. Sean Bell is a 6'1", 206 redshirt freshman quarterback out of China Spring, Texas. And he's got the Bears doing some good things offensively right now. He'll give it to his deep man, and Rashad Armstrong was met head-on by Gayron Allen coming from that middle linebacker position. Of course, Gay running a Texas kid as well, a two-time All-Stater out of Orange, Texas. Teddy Lehman there helping out right behind.
You know, I was talking to Gayron Allen a couple weeks ago, and I asked him his size, and he said 5'9", 220, which linebackers don't like to say that. And he looked over and he said, well, 5'9 3/4. Nonetheless, that's Dexter Coakley-ish.
And a 3rd and 1, they've got the first down. Little handoff to the fullback, first man through. And it was to the fullback, Jonathan Evans, Duncanville, Texas kid out of that Dallas area. And the Bears moving the chains, moving the clock some here.
We'll see if Baylor tries to take advantage of Perkins being out of the ball game. Perkins a field corner, so it will be to your extreme left. He's one-on-one. He was last year's safety.
Play action. Bell straight ahead. And the ball is batted down by Dante Nicholson. 4th pass broken up of the year. Of course, he had a couple of INTs. One of them saved a touchdown at Alabama, the other against Oklahoma State.
You show that he can do both. He can play against the run, but watch this. That's great closing speed right there. That looked like it might have been a touchdown, but Dante Nicholson came in as a deeper safety, now moved closer to the line of scrimmage because of that injury, but he can do both.
That's why time in the 40 is important for a DB. A play like that. 2nd and 10 at the 37. Little flare out to the left side, caught by Marcus Roberts, and he's down inside the OU 35. Teddy Lehman got him there.
Lehman's having a big ball game. He was named one of the 3 finalists for the Butkus Award. He's up for it for a 2nd consecutive year, up against Derek Johnson and Vilma from Miami. And folks, I don't know how closely you watched the Texas game, but J.D. Runnels was talking to the staff during the game about Derek Johnson was running away from him. He couldn't even get a block on him. And if Johnson wins that award, you can send me to some other sport because I don't know football.
3rd and 8. A delay inside the Oklahoma 30 and near first down yardage. Rashad Armstrong of Baylor. Brandon Shelby, who comes in on nickel package, came up to make that stop.
Baylor now has twice the number of first downs that A&M had a week ago at 6.
And they're piling up some total yardage here. They're over 100 now. OU at 202, the Bears at 104, and a lot of that on this drive. 1st and 10 at the Sooner 26. And Bell rolling and overthrowing. And Dean, by the way, we can't let much more time go by without noting that this is the 10th consecutive quarter the Sooners have played in without giving up an offensive touchdown.
Yeah. Guy Morris knows that Mike Stoops is a phenomenal defensive coordinator. You mentioned Brent Venables as his right-hand man, Jackie Shipp with the line, and Bobby Jack Wright also with the defensive ends. But Oklahoma is just sound defensively. Now you have a cornerback who's out right now and a safety who has a shoulder hurt. We'll see what the depth does for them.
2nd and 10 for Baylor. Give to the deep man. It's Rashad Armstrong. And near the Oklahoma 25, they'll face a 3rd and long. And after not calling his name a whole lot early, we're calling the name of Teddy Lehman pretty regularly now.
Teddy Lehman was a speedster coming out of high school, and he could run it, and he was, you know, heavy for a speedster back then, a sprinter, but now he still motors at least 4.5, probably less than that, and he weighs about 244.
And coaches tell us he's as good on Tuesday as he is on Saturday. He comes every day to practice and brings it all with him. That ball is complete, and it's a 1st down again. It'll be Trent Shelton of Baylor. Eric Bassey trying to stay with him. And that, of course, is the spot Antonio Perkins normally plays out on that left corner.
I like the offensive game plan of Baylor. They're just doing the old take what the defense gives you.
Clock restarted now. We're under 9 minutes to go in the 1st half. All Oklahoma to this point, but the Bears are putting together a very nice drive. They'll run out of the eye with a single wide receiver to the left and a motion man heading that way as well. They're looking for the short side. Armstrong gets an opening in there, and he's down inside the Sooner 10, maybe to the 6. Dante Nicholson, Pasha Jackson finally on the stop. And it looks like Rashad Armstrong is going to go over 1,000 yards today. Nobody at Baylor has done that since Jared Douglas ran for 1,114 yards 8 years ago. 2nd and 4. The ball is actually now inside the 5.
Sooners pull a linebacker and go with a safety.
Armstrong in the open field. Sooners close on him. Matt McCoy there to help out. Jonathan Jackson from defensive end.
Probably the right call there by Mike Stoops and Venables. They get Matt McCoy into the game and get Pasha Jackson out. Now Pasha Jackson goes back in.
Third and 2. They can get a 1st down without scoring. And the fans making some noise at the north end of the stadium. Great play in the backfield. Derek Strait. He was eyeing the quarterback and the handoff man and probably could have tackled either one.
Yeah, he almost took the handoff. Corner blitz from the top. Talk about a no-hitter. How about the fullback there? I mean, he did not even touch Derek Strait.
Well, Dean, it looks like Oklahoma's touchdown streak will stay intact as far as not giving one up in 10 consecutive quarters. It'll be Kenny Webb on for about a 23-yard field goal attempt from the right hash.
If I'm Guy Morris, I think about faking this one.
May have run out of time on the play clock.
Not a problem. They'll probably get a better angle on it by bringing it back, and now there will be no chance at a
Delay of game on the offense, 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
Unless you're Bob Stoops.
But Bob Stoops isn't normally down 24-0 when he calls a play like that. You know, if you're Baylor, you may want to just get something on the board, salvage.
Sure, that's the other part.
And the other thing is, Dean, it was a very nice drive. You had the ball for a long time. They've only had a couple of drives this year, more than 4 minutes. This might have been their best drive of the year, all things considered. 28-yarder. And the Bears are on the board with 6:35 to go in the first half. Oklahoma's defense, a little injury problem. They bend but do not break. 24-3 Sooners.
The 3 trainers have been working with Brandon Everidge. He's walking around, but really seems to be in some pain. And also, guys, that was only the 18th trip that an opposing team has made inside the OU's red zone all season. Unbelievable. Bob?
All right, Chris, thanks. Yeah, really one of Baylor's best overall drives of the year. Mark Bradley inside the Sooner 5. Angling near side, room to work with to the 30, running out of sideline room and getting himself a yard short of midfield. A 40-plus yard return for the 6'2 junior Mark Bradley.
I mentioned earlier, Bradley, look at him take off. You talk about a guy that looks good in a uniform, and he plays better than what he looks. Danny Bradley's son, former Sooner quarterback, didn't take him long to get out to midfield because he can fly. But not only, this really tells you about Oklahoma, its ability to go find players who are walk-ons. This kid transferred in as a walk-on and was awarded a scholarship, and you see why. But he just came into the program.
Out of Arkansas Pine Bluff, his hometown. White play action all day. Up the middle. Open man. Touchdown Sooners. Brandon Jones, but there is a flag back at the 41-yard line. How open can a receiver be?
Holding on the offense. 10-yard penalty from the previous.
That'll call back a 51-yard touchdown play. Walter Davenport, the referee on today's crew.
Calling them back is never good. Calling them back in a Heisman race. I mean, it gets to the point where you think Heisman on all these passes because it's a foregone conclusion that the Sooners will win games like this.
First and 20 for OU, back at the 38. Swing to the left side, a dangerous pass. It's overthrown. Travis Wilson, sophomore out of Carrollton, Texas. That would have been his first catch of the day.
That was thrown from the crown of the field, which is the highest point, down to the lower point. But Bob, you've been here, you were here years ago when this crown was unbelievable. It was sort of like you stood on one side of the field, you couldn't see the other side. It was the highest crown in the country.
Yeah, guys were literally running downhill, angling for the sidelines either way. Now White will float it out there. That ball is caught, but too late by Wilson. He was already out of bounds into the Baylor bench area. And Oklahoma will have 3rd and long here. As much momentum as the Baylor Bears have had all day, they have right now. An 18-play, 68-yard, 8-minute, 28-second drive. One of only 3 scoring drives they've had of more than 4 minutes all year. And now they're in a position on 3rd and long to maybe stop Oklahoma, get the football back, and have 5.5 minutes or so to try something before halftime.
Blitz.
Oklahoma picks it up well. That is a ball thrown out to about the 47-yard line. Jawan Rankins on the receiving end. James Todd, though, was staying right with him. And there's a couple thousand fans already chanting, go, go, go.
It's confidence in your offense. This is Jason White feels the pressure from that blitz. And a great job of coming off of his receiver and just getting that one completed, but a good defensive stop for the Bears.
Blake Ferguson trying to nail his 10th punt of the year inside the opponent's 20. It's going to be caught at the 9-yard line and returned out to about the 13, maybe the 14 by Willie Andrews. Jacob Rice, who does some deep snapping for the Sooners, down there to make the tackle. 5:19 to go in the first half. Oklahoma by 3 touchdowns. As the Bears operate from down deep, Gay Ron Allen's going to make sure they don't go very far on first down. We must note Antonio Perkins did come out and is back in the game for this defensive series. Brandon Everidge, though, still on that sideline.
And we might also note that Perkins is limping, and as a field corner and a kick returner, that's not good. So we'll see what that ends up being, but it does appear, as you said, to be a leg injury.
That's Dean Blevins. I'm Bob Carpenter. Chris Plank with us at Gaylord Family Memorial Stadium, Owen Field today. 24-3 Sooners, less than 5 minutes to go first half. 2nd and 9 at the Baylor 15. Sean Bell checking off at the line of scrimmage. Not a real great exchange. It took a while, it seemed, for Brendan Whitaker to get his hands around that football. Teddy Lehman, Derek Strait, with their closing speed, took care of that pretty quickly.
You play with emotion defensively, with intensity more than on offense, and I think that you saw Oklahoma lacking that for that 8-minute plus drive, 8:46 I believe it was. But you can bet on the sideline. You sort of know Venables and Mike Stoops for sure. They have a tendency to get the guys jacked up, and something like that happens.
3rd and 9 now at the 15. By the way, their best runner, Rashad Armstrong, out of the game now. He's shaken up.
A fumble.
Separated from the football.
That sure.
Dante Nicholson closing in a hurry.
I thought that was a fumble. I must be completely wrong on this one.
Watch the arm.
Blitz coming. Whoa.
I don't think that arm was ever headed. He double pumped, Dean.
Yeah.
And so the arm was never headed forward.
I think that's a bad call.
Oklahoma will get it back with good field position here. And here's where Baylor really relies on their freshman punter, Daniel Sepulveda, who's had 2 punts this year of over 60 yards.
This is a good chance to see how injured. Boy, shakes this one as well.
Terrible punt. So you've got a freshman with a Ray Guy type leg.
Yeah.
But as a first-year player, he hasn't learned that consistency yet. He only took up punting last year about this time.
Good point. Well, the fans are booing because they want to see Antonio Perkins run it back, and they think that that's just their way of kicking away from him. That's not their way of kicking away from him. Trust me.
Yeah, not netting 15 yards. So Oklahoma knows of the football at the Baylor 30. Chris Plank, what's happening downstairs?
Well, guys, the defensive intensity has not died down, nor has it from the coaching staff. You got to watch Mike Stoops, Brent Venables, and Bob Stoops try to keep this defense fired up.
Little tight end motion to the left side, leading the way for Kewan Jones. Lance Donnelly, the senior out of Weatherford, was leading the way out there. Justin Crooks came up for Baylor from his strong side linebacker spot to make that stop.
We talked about the focus that Oklahoma is able game after game after game to be consistent and play at a high level. It's important for the Sooners, even though it's going to be a rout, most likely. It's important that they put this ball in the end zone.
Sooners haven't scored since 4 seconds left in the first quarter. White unable to get away. Not a great pass rush there by John Garrett, the linebacker, who had him wrapped up.
I'll tell you how far along Jason White's knees have come. He's fine. Watch him, folks. He will have to scramble to get away from pressure on this one. And in the first game, a lot of us who've seen him play and who know about the seriousness of those knees would just kind of hold your breath, wondering if he's going to get up. But as you watch this one, this could be one that would make you hold your breath. But now you don't worry about it.
3rd and 8 now.
Blitz.
Sooners pick it up beautifully. We've got a flag in the backfield. The Baylor Bears are acting like they got held, and the Sooners acting like they were interfered with down at the 20-yard line. We may have penalties on both teams.
If so, they'll play it again. I couldn't tell what the one in the Sooner backfield.
Pass interference on the defense. The offset. Who will replay 3rd down?
Replay 3rd down from the 28. 3:07 to go. Clock stopped first half. It took Oklahoma 3 minutes and 50 seconds to get on the board today with a Brandon Jones 25-yard catch.
Let's see if the offensive line can provide protection. They've been confused a little bit here in the first half. Not outmanned, but confused.
Now a flag again.
It's against Oklahoma.
Going to make it 3rd and 13.
On the 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
Chris Bush, number 52, is in for Davin Joseph. Joseph has had an ankle that's been a problem for him, and there you see the penalties. Bears have accumulated 6, but Bush is an up-and-coming player. Davin Joseph, a star, but he's been injured.
Yeah, Bush can play center or the guard position. They love his upside. 3rd down and 13. Out to the right side. The ball is caught out there by Jawan Rankins. He was closed on quickly by C.J. Wilson. And Oklahoma will stall again. They'll be looking at about a 4th and 8 from the Baylor 28.
Interesting. They're going to run this one again. They will go for this one. Watch the great block by Runnels. No, that's actually by Kewan Jones. Outstanding. But that was great Baylor defense. 4th and 8. Surprisingly, they're going for it.
From the gun. Good protection. Straight ahead. Clayton. What an adjustment that was. That's a 1st down inside the 20. And that ball was not perfectly on target,
right.
Dean. He really had to reach and grab that one.
Well, yeah, you say it's only Baylor and it's 24-3, but there was no hesitancy about whether to go for that. And you saw they went to their money man, and you also saw why. Great first half for Clayton.
1st down at the Baylor 19. Jason White to the corner, and it is a touchdown. Will Peoples pulling that one in, his 3rd touchdown catch of the year, and it's 30-3 Sooners.
Boy, that was a beautiful route by Peoples, who is a little bit banged up himself coming off. Jason White will give a little pump fake. Boom. Corner bites. And over the top, Jason White goes once again. And once again, there's not much of a window. There's not much space there between the defender, the receiver, and the boundary.
Sooners wait to snap it until an injured player can get off the field.
Boy, this has not been a good half. It's been a bad half for injuries. Everidge, Perkins, and now Will Peoples comes off.
2 minutes ago, first half, Oklahoma's only score of this quarter. Peoples on a 20-yard reception. Sooners lead at 31-3. Trey DeCarlo has just kicked into the end zone on the kickoff, his 37th touchback of the year. And the Baylor Bears have 2 minutes to go to try to make something happen, get back on the board here at Owen Field. 31-3 Sooners, 2nd quarter.
Will Peoples, a shoulder injury. Brandon Everidge not back in the game. McCoy in for him. Perkins is in. Top of your screen is a field corner.
Yeah, not playing at 100%, is he? Out of the gun. Oklahoma immediately in the backfield. And Baylor manages to get the ball handed off, but there is a flag. Teddy Lehman, Dusty Dvorak.
Pardon me, Bob. You mentioned earlier about the explosiveness of number 97, Tommy Harris, and he sometimes is called off sides because of that. This one probably legitimate, but
From the defense, 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. Replay, 1st down.
But he has a quick first step. This guy, they could have introduced him with the seniors today, because I don't think he's coming back. He's going to be a top 10 selection, I'm sure, in the upcoming NFL draft. That guy will go pretty high as well. Teddy Lehman.
1st and 5 for Baylor. That ball is intercepted. It's McCoy. And the Sooners will have a first down deep. And for Matt McCoy, second interception of the year, the 6th of his Oklahoma career.
Matt McCoy, one of the all-time great players, or great guys, who is a very good player. You know, he is one of those guys that is a good athlete, you know, in high school, up in the Tulsa area.
One of those Jinx Trojans.
One of those Jinx Trojans, championship years, 3 years in a row, I believe. But he's one of those kids that's always in the right place at the right time, and sometimes people don't understand that that's as important as being a superior athlete.
Well, the quarterback, Sean Bell, looking out there, and Matt McCoy was reading his eyes. Quickly, first down. Clayton can't get to it, as it was chipped over the top by Jason White. Minute 27 to go in the first half. 31-3 Sooners trying to get the ball into the end zone again. Chris Blank, what's happening down there?
Oh, I just wanted to pass on one quick thing on Matt McCoy for you as well, too, guys. Very selfless. Dina, you talked about being in the right place at the right time. He even had the opportunity to be a high school quarterback, and he decided to change positions because they had Ben Bowling in the mix as well, too. Now, defensive back for OU and doing well.
What a reverse. Clayton, not much there. Hanging on to him for dear life was Matt Johnson, the defensive back for Baylor.
So this will be a passing down and a chance, as you see, Clayton not really have any room, and a chance for Jason White to see what he can do with the secondary. Time running down, and we talked about them needing to jam one of them in, Bob. Not only did they get that one in, but have a chance to turn around another quick.
Clock running, 45 seconds to go. White quick drop out to the right side. Staying inbounds, trying to smell that end zone. J.D. Runnels, the halfback. That's his 12th catch of the year. Had a couple of touchdowns earlier against Fresno, one against the Longhorns.
And the fans want him to go for it again, and it looks like they will. Trey DeCarlo saying, let's not. Look at J.D. Runnels just bounce off those defenders, or maybe, Bob, it's them bouncing off of him.
Well, clock is running down. It's going to be 4th and goal. I think what they might do is just stop the clock here.
Yeah, they'll call timeout at the end, and it looks like that they are planning to go for it.
Talk about waiting a while. The clock at 1. Normally you want to make sure you've got the timeout with, you know, 5-4 at the least, 3 seconds left.
Yeah, good point.
0-0-1 right now.
Yeah, good point, because they will send the kicking team out.
Memorial Stadium with a tick left in the first half. Oklahoma, a choice of things to do, 31-3.
Bob, the reason you would call timeout there is, I'm sorry, I was thinking that it was not first down. I think I'll backtrack on everything I just said, and we'll start over and say it's a wise decision to kick the field goal right now.
I think so too. No, I totally agree with you. Not that I'm worried about national image right now, but some people would say, oh yeah, you should kick it.
Right.
20-yard attempt by Trey. And he drills it through. Trey DeCarlo with the second field goal of the day. He's 19 out of 20 this year. And at the gun, it's 34-3. Downstairs with the coach.
Coach, your assessment of the first half and how your guys play.
It's been okay. We've played okay. Been spotty in some areas, but.
All right, it's halftime at Memorial Stadium in Norman. Oklahoma 34, Baylor 3. The Sooners are 1 half away from clinching the Big 12 South Division Championship. It's all Oklahoma up by 31 halfway through. Scoring on 4 passes today. Jason White has 240 passing yards at the half. The Sooners have only rushed the ball for 20 yards so far, but they piled up 260, and they lead the Baylor Bears 34-3. Bob Carpenter back with Dean Blevins and Chris Plank. Dean, anything that you have seen in the first half that you didn't expect other than some potentially damaging Oklahoma injuries.
Well, that's the biggest thing to me that jumps out at you because of what's in store. The Big 12 championship game just a couple, 3 weeks down the road, and then perhaps a shot at the national championship, and you've got some really good players there with some injuries. If I were guessing, I would say that Brandon Everidge's injury is significant and that he would be able to play with it the way he has the last couple of years, but he became relatively ineffective when he's had that injury to that degree. Will Peoples did not look good to me, so I don't feel good about his return, certainly in this game. And I still think Antonio Perkins' leg injury is wasn't good enough for him to go back on the field and play at corner. The one number that does jump out is that time of possession, effectively there 18 minutes to 12. That number, the score that really matters, is 34-3. Time of possession is one of the most misleading numbers that you can have in football. And last year in the OU route at Waco, the Bears had significant, I don't have the number in front of me, but they had a lot more possession time than the Sooners. And one of the advantages Baylor has this year against opponents is the same thing, time of possession. But that's not always the most important thing.
And, of course, most of Baylor's damage today came on that 8-minute, 28-second drive when they ran 18 plays and went 68 yards. On the scoreboard, where that's all that matters, it's Oklahoma 34-3. Halftime from Norman continues after this timeout. Halftime in Norman, band entertaining the big crowd here at Memorial Stadium. Sooners on top 34-3. Chris Plank down on the field with one of the busiest athletic directors and now one of the most prolific, Joe Castiglione. Chris?
Gets the trumpet welcome. Joe Castiglione, the athletic director at the University of Oklahoma. Congratulations, Joe, for the unveiling of the Great Expectations campaign. $120 million. You must be proud.
Well, we are proud, but really the thanks needs to go to all the people that contributed. I mean, obviously 83,000 people that do some part to help us, and of course we've had some unbelievable donors all throughout the country that have stepped forward and help us reach a really important dream. And you know, everything's about a journey. It's not about a destination. And while we celebrate the end of, in a sense, a campaign, we're really just starting and continuing to improve on our facilities and creating the best possible resources for our student athletes and our coaches.
And that's the one thing that whenever you took over, it was an overall vision. I mean, we see it right here in front of us with the football stadium, but it's all sports, isn't it?
Well, something as large as a football stadium can be and usually is a crown jewel of any campaign. But the one thing that made this campaign totally unique was, first, the enormous goal.
Right.
We launched that Friday night before the Nebraska game in 2,000. People were wondering that might have bitten off more than we can chew. But the other part that made it unique was it touched every sport we sponsored. Every sport has received some level of improvement, better resources for the student athletes. There's better success on the fields, the mats, the courts, the tracks, the diamonds, and we're getting better. That's the best part about it all.
Hey, and what's next? What's your next goal?
Well, you know, any good athletic director has more to accomplish, and I don't know that we ever really get done. We're finishing a brand new track. We're hosting the Big 12 Men's and Women's Track Championships in May. We're also hosting the Big 12 Men's and Women's Tennis Championships on the new tennis courts. And speaking of tennis and soccer, women's soccer finished their season last night in Tennessee in their first ever appearance in the NCAA tournament. Those two sports are really on the high level of priority to finish the clubhouse for tennis and soccer, permanent grandstands and other amenities. We're going to restore McCaslin Fieldhouse. Obviously been a great home for a lot of Sooner sports for a lot of years. Historic building, yes, but it needs a lot of attention. Of course, we'll continue to make improvements around the stadium. We have other upgrades that we have planned. And as you know, we go along, the success that we've had in all of our sports, we need places to display it. And the Switzer Center has an area that is an expanded lobby. We're going to upgrade, actually completely change all of the displays there and make it more attractive and more accessible for our fans.
Well, I think it's pretty awesome right now, Joe. You've done a great job. Enjoy the second half, all right?
Well, I think we are. are going to enjoy the second half, but we're going to continue to enjoy and celebrate and push for greatness at this program.
We appreciate it, Joe. Thank you very much. Joe Castiglione is the athletic director at the University of Oklahoma, and let's enjoy the Pride of Oklahoma marching band here at the half. OU on top, 34-3.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2003 Pride of Oklahoma. Today marks the final home performance of 65 senior Pride of Oklahoma members. These outstanding young men and women have devoted thousands of hours during their college careers supporting the Sooners rain or shine. Each of these band members has left an indelible mark.
34-3 at the half here at Gaylord Memorial Stadium. Oklahoma dominating Baylor. We had a chance to catch up with Coach Stoops while we were going into the locker room. All he really stressed was making sure that the guys kept playing hard. And it is a special day here. It's senior day. 14 seniors saying adios to the program. As Dino mentioned a little bit earlier, maybe 15 when you consider a guy like Tommy Harris, who is probably considered to be a top draft pick, if not the #1 draft pick next year in the NFL draft. So we celebrate 14 seniors, maybe 15, or heck, maybe 14, because Jason White could always come back for another season. The second half is ahead of us. Stick around. More football to come here on Cox Communications. The Oklahoma Sooners, the #1 team in the land, leading the Baylor Bears 34-3. Welcome back to halftime. Gaylord Family Memorial Stadium. The Oklahoma Sooners all over the Baylor Bears, 34-3. Great moment just before the half as Oklahoma senior Matt McCoy picked off a pass, was headed towards the end zone, and the Sooners ended up getting a field goal. Second half still to come. Of course, a lot of eyes on this game across the country, because if the Sooners win, they wrap up the Big 12 South Championship and guarantee a spot in the Big 12 Championship game. And who's to say sometimes that equipment can't prevent things? We had a chance to talk to Bob Snoops, but we got snapped on our way out to the field. Yeah, there you can see. It always happens that way, doesn't it? But he did assure us that the team's still playing hard and they're committed to continuing that in the second half. One thing that we will be interested to keep an eye on is how long will Bob Stoops stay with some of his starters in the second half. Jason White had a huge first half. Does the thought that Jason White is playing for a Heisman come into play here in the second half, and maybe he plays a little bit longer? Also, a couple of things to keep an eye on. We mentioned the injury situation. They had been working with Brandon Everidge on the bench before we left. Antonio Perkins looks like he's okay, but Will Peoples, who caught the touchdown pass late in the second half, trainers were still working with him as well. And of course, you're not going to get any medical information, so we'll just have to wait and see if we see Peoples on the field in the second half. We're at the half. The University of Oklahoma is on top 34-3 over the Baylor Bears. We're going to toss it back upstairs to Bob Carpenter, who's with Dean Blevins. Bob.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. 34-3. We've got about 4 minutes or so before we get ready for the third quarter of play here. Oklahoma getting their special teams guys back out on the field, and Dean Blevins and I will take you through some first half highlights. Lots of Oklahoma action when we come back after this timeout. Getting Getting ready for the second half here at Memorial Stadium in Norman. Sooners on top of Baylor 34-3. Highlights, most of it through the air in the first half.
Well, it was. The running game wasn't there, but the passing game was clicking on top. That one goes to Brandon Jones, and that started things off. Sooners up 7-0 there. White comes back. He goes deep to who else? That's an outstanding throw and catch there. Clayton's got that one. It's 14-0 midway through the second, or the first rather. That's another great throw.
Yeah, that was the 9-yarder to Clayton with 4 seconds left in the first quarter. Bears got on the board after their long 18-play drive as their guy Kenny Webb got a field goal, and that was their only score.
Let's watch the pass right here. A little fake and then on top. See, watch where he gets hit. The left shoulder, it appeared, was what was slammed to the ground. It's hard to tell, but Will Peoples is hurting and doubtful to return. Harlow gets the boot 34-3.
That was a 20-yarder as time expired in the first half. And Oklahoma well on its way to an 11-0 record and a 7-0 Big 12 mark.
You know, Jason White's numbers, 240 yards, 4 touchdowns, but in reality, they had one call back because of a hold. Sooners ended up punting on that series, so he could easily have 288 yards, 5 touchdowns. We talked about his touchdown to interception ratio, Bob, off air, and it is 36 touchdowns to 6 interceptions.
And of course, with his 4 touchdowns today, he surpassed Josh Heupel's record of 33 in a season. So he's gone far beyond that. There's another game to play next week at Texas Tech. And hopefully 2 big ones after that, the Big 12 championship game. And of course, the Sugar Bowl, which everybody has in the back of their minds. Some don't want to talk about it, don't want to look too far ahead. But, you know, the thing about that Big 12 championship game, Dean, it can be a little rugged weather-wise in Kansas City in December. That adds a whole nother element to that game that may not be present if it was played indoors or down in Texas somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's why people here want to see the game down south, preferably indoors. But up there, that is an issue. Remember the 2000 team that went on to win the national championship, and it was cold there, and Kansas State had a big backing, and the Sooners played well and won. Kansas State leading early, and I know this is a tape delay, but my point is I think the Sooners would prefer to play Nebraska versus Kansas State.
That was Mark Bradley dropping the ball out of the back of the end zone. Oklahoma will take over, and the big question is, how much will Jason White play in the second half?
I think offensively what you're going to be looking here for the Sooners to do is for the offensive line to do a better job in picking up blitzes and to run the ball better.
Brandon Jones, maybe a yard or 2 on first down. Oklahoma now playing in its 11th consecutive quarter. We'll talk about the defense later, in which they have not allowed an offensive touchdown by the opposition.
From the 21.
Offense with 262 total yards today. Now they show the eye. And Kewan Jones will get out to around the 27-yard line. Oklahoma will be looking at a 3rd and 3. Kewan on the year averaging just over 4 yards a carry. He had that 120-yard game last week against the Aggies.
You know, the Sooners have been particularly good on converting 3rd downs, I think, for 2 reasons. One is the accuracy of Jason White, and the other is the ability to strike people downfield. It allows for there to be some cushion underneath.
It's going to be 3rd and a short 3. White rolling. Initial guy not open. In trouble now, and cracked out of bounds and down inside the 20-yard line.
You know, we were talking during halftime. We look up and we see the score 34-3, but You know, Baylor did some really good things in the first half. Here you go straight on a sprint out. You have time. It's a good job in blocking, but it's a good job in the secondary of coverage. And Jason White runs out of green grass, but he runs into green pants.
Willie Andrews is the Baylor punt return man. Ferguson lets it fly. High spiral. Good coverage by the Sooners right there at the Baylor 40-yard line. So Oklahoma will net 42 yards on that play. You know, and sometimes going back to that play by Jason White a moment ago, Dean, quarterbacks make good plays when they don't force the ball, when there's nothing there. Sometimes you just take the sack or the out-of-bounds play deep in your own territory.
Well, I agree with you, and that was the case there. You know, on the other hand, you look back at it and you say, oh, there's the guy with the bad knees. Is he going to get back up? But I think he has enough confidence in his knees. He did at the beginning of the year, but I know he certainly does now to go ahead and do what's right and take the hit if he has to.
Sean Bell going most of the way for the Bears today. His bread and butter guy is Rashad Armstrong.
Wow, what a play by Lehman.
Teddy was right there with him. And again, we've had several occasions today when Oklahoma defenders have been quickly in that backfield.
Well, Lehman is having, I don't know if he's trying to get a few votes here at the end for the Butkus, but he's having a whale of a day.
Having another All-American season. 2nd and 9 at the 42. And a little nervous drop out there by Rashad Armstrong.
I think you'll see the Sooner defense play better in noting things that I thought the Sooners would need to do. The offensively was picking up the blitzes and establishing the run, but defensively I think it's just one thing. I think it's intensity. Sooners will always be in the right defense. They'll be in the right position to make plays, but it's their intensity and their great ability to use their speed, which is part of intensity, that separates them.
3rd down and 9 for the Bears.
Blitz off the corner.
They're 4 out of 9 on 3rd downs today. And Armstrong getting decent yardage. They'll be short. Rodney Poole out there to help put an end to that play in a kicking situation for Baylor.
Oh, man, these fans have gotten spoiled. You know, I think they're disappointed that there wasn't a bigger play. They're just, and not being critical, I mean, just a point of where this Sooner team has gotten to be so dominating. But, you know, that's a play that in other games, if you can stop a team, make them punt, and play good defense the way they did there, that brings a lot of cheers. That got nothing. Standard has gotten pretty high.
Well, that quick got there in a hurry. Perkins trying to escape. And he was wrapped up back there by Colin Aldred, linebacker on special teams for Baylor. 3.5 minutes out of halftime. Sooners 34-3. Interested in the running game today. 17 rushing yards as they take over here in the 3rd quarter. White from the gun. And a little pitch to the near side. Not a whole lot there for Dante Hickson.
Well, if Works can come back and the back injury is not serious, he'll have fresh legs, and that'll add something to the backfield. He has really become a really nice player. And I was talking to, you remember Pat Jones, the former OSU coach, Jimmy Johnson's assistant.
Unforgettable guy there.
Oh, it's outstanding. He's so complimentary to this OU team, and he says, you know, but they don't have that premier running back.
Jason White in trouble.
OU's not picking up the blitz. This is the worst I've seen them play all year in protecting the quarterback.
Willie Andrews got in there. Justin Crooks was there to help him out. And I'll tell you, you made the point earlier, Dean, when we signed on. A&M quit against the Sooners last week. This Baylor team has a lot of fight in them. They're used to being in the situations. They came up here to play a football game against the best team in the country, and they're going to leave whatever they've got right here. 3rd and 17 now. White on a drop. Swings it near side. Hickson, not a whole lot there. He was tackled by Willie Andrews, but was there something up around the face mask there as he got brought down? 80,000 couldn't be any quieter than they are right now.
That graphic you saw is not very impressive.
Face mask on the defense. 5-yard penalty. Repeat third down.
That'll make it a 3rd and 12. Depending on where the spot is. First 5 minutes of the second half. Oklahoma has had 1 touchdown since the 4-second mark of the first quarter.
That's a veritable drought.
Yeah.
For that offense.
3rd and 7 as the ball is marked at the 27. White with plenty of time. Perfectly timed on the near side for Mark Bradley. He released when the ball was just being released by the quarterback. And that's that speed and timing that we talked about earlier.
Well, those are 2 great players. That time the offensive line did its job. And White gets a one-on-one on the outside with a very, very talented. This guy's scary, number 1. And the cornerback gave just a little too much cushion. And that was a nice play by Bradley, who knew right where the first down marker was. He wasn't about to look for more yardage and go backwards.
Baylor with a timeout, 5.5 minutes into the 3rd quarter. Sooners on the move. A nice catch by Mark Bradley. It's 34-3 Oklahoma. Clayton all over the place here on a first down play at the 41. Up top. Waiting for the ball. A flag flies. Travis Wilson had a defender all over him as that ball was in the air for a long, long time. All tied up with Anthony Arline, the 6'2" redshirt freshman out of San Antonio, was Travis Wilson.
Well, White was going on the streak route or the go route without any question. They calling that against OU? Is it that offensive interference?
Pass interference on the offense. Pass interference on the defense. They offset.
Wow.
Got them both.
First down.
Well, I started to mention that Travis Wilson is a very physical receiver, and I guess that's what you saw there, is that he's been guilty of a pass interference call, I believe, earlier this season, but I really like this kid. Sometimes he doesn't get the balls thrown to him as much as he should because of the other outstanding receivers, but number 4 is a big, strong player that in time will be terrific.
6'3", 216. And we repeat, if you will, the 1st and 10 from the 41. Dante Hickson off the right side. Dominic Cravens, Tyler, Texas kid, played some JUCO ball there before coming to Baylor, makes the stop. Clock is moving down to the 9-minute mark, 3rd quarter.
Kevin Wilson has been a great addition to this staff. He was formerly an offensive coordinator at Northwestern, and he's a run game coordinator here. He's done a marvelous job with these young guys. I would think right now, though, he's pretty disappointed in what has happened so far, but he makes great in-game adjustments.
White being flushed out again. All over him was Jamal Harper. You know, they got some young guys on this defense. Harper, a sophomore, and put some serious pressure on Jason White. They've gotten to him 3 or 4 times lately.
Well, that's a blitz, just no pickup there. That's not the offensive line's fault. That's the back not picking up the blitzer.
Oklahoma runs that 3 wide, 1 tight end, 1 back set. That can be a problem if your one guy doesn't help out your QB.
Yeah.
3rd and 7 now at the 44.
Got a blitz if you're Baylor.
Across the middle, Clayton really nowhere near the area where that ball was being thrown. And the Bears had some pretty good double coverage down there on Oklahoma's talented junior out of Arlington. Oklahoma will kick it now with 8.5 to go, 3rd quarter.
There haven't been many defenses that have been able to do what Baylor has done since that 2nd quarter started. I guess you had a touchdown with just a couple of seconds remaining in the 1st.
Blake Ferguson to kick it to Willie Andrews. At the 18. And guess who? Mark Bradley came flashing by. A flag flew. Bradley kind of stuck his arm out, clotheslined the kick returner.
Well, there's no halo rule.
I just wonder if maybe one of the guys was holding Bradley, trying to keep him away.
That flag came in from left field.
Long conversation about the spot of the foul.
Walking the back on the receiving team.
Yeah, you were right.
Half the distance from the end of
I
the
thought
kick.
maybe the official was
First
having a
down.
flashback to that ever so unpopular halo rule. Couldn't quite see it there. I didn't pick it up. You got it?
They got Anthony Arline for that. He just had a situation where Mark Bradley had a full head of steam coming down the field, and he got beyond the defender. And now Baylor at the north end. Shadows are creeping here at 20 minutes to 4 local time. The Bears out of the eye. A fake to the deep man in his own end zone. And that ball is complete. And it's out to Robert Quiroga, the guy we talked about earlier today. Oklahoma's had some special coverage on him today that's kept him from receiving the ball. Quiroga is their #1 receiver, having caught, including that one, 34 balls for over 400 yards on the year.
That is a well-executed play. I like this Sean Bell. Oklahoma was in the right defense. They got some pressure.
Trying to string out Rashad Armstrong. He never did get back to the line of scrimmage. Tommy Harris, Gay Ron Allen, a couple of Texas kids teaming up on the Baylor running back there. Clock running as we move down to the 7.5-minute mark, third quarter. Oklahoma 34-3. No scoring so far in this half. And the crowd making some noise on 3rd and 3, looking for another defensive stop. Running back, slow developing, forget it. He's down back at his 13. And it was Derek Strait.
And Matt McCoy. Matt's going to be in the right position. Strait, as you mentioned, will make the play, but watch 34. He does his job right there. Fights off the blocker. He's deep in the backfield. Tommy Harris was single team that time, only one blocker on him, and he was floating out around the sideline as well. That play was not going anywhere.
Good field position awaiting the Sooners here. That ball is blocked. Hits the turf at the 22. And Oklahoma, after Brandon Shelby got his hand on it, will have even better field position.
Boy, for a team that really punts the ball well, it's been a nightmare of a day. If they had been punting it well, the score wouldn't be like this.
2 shanks and now a block off the foot of Daniel Sepulveda, their freshman punter.
Just takes a little too long. And the little man, the little big man gets back there. I was really surprised that Antonio Perkins was deep for the Sooners because he is in pain. It's obvious.
Oklahoma gets the ball back, 6:33, third quarter. White dropping, protected this time. They picked up the rusher, and that ball is to the corner of the end zone, and not happening for OU with Mark Clayton again trying to be on the receiving end. Some things are just out of sync right now, Dean Blevins.
Well, some of that's really, I mean, that's well covered. There's Dan Cody and Dusty Dvorak, two really talented players. You know, this ball is thrown just a half step too far, but I think you've got to credit the defense for a good part of that. Well, Oklahoma's not afraid to get the ball downfield, though. That's what you got to love.
Out of the eye, Keywan Jones trying to angle off the right side, and John Garrett, senior linebacker, was right there to say hi. Now a little question about Mark Clayton, who came off for a play, but now he comes back on.
He's got an injured left hand, I believe it is. Well, this has been a nasty day for what you hope will be nicks that you'll hear come up in conversation, and not anything real serious, but we do have 2 players that didn't even come out of the halftime locker room.
White out of the gun, changing the play, shifting Kiwan to his left on 3rd and 11. He's under pressure again, unloads it. Pretty much had to throw that thing away. Justin Crooks with coverage and
I'll
pressure.
tell you, pardon me, but you get a team that has bigger, better, stronger, faster defensive players. It's not going to be a pretty thing for Jason White. There will be a lot to look at on this tape. And I tell you what, when they come off the sideline, they're going to be talking about the fact that the Sooners will go for it again since they're on the 30, but they're going to be talking about getting the quarterback killed.
Now a timeout. Baylor calls it on an Oklahoma 4th and 11. We'll take a pause here in Norman. 80,000 plus, a little bit apprehensive right now. 34-3 Sooners. Last 5:42 in the 3rd period. 4th and 11, Oklahoma throwing the ball into the end zone. Maurice Lane breaking up a pass that was intended for Brandon Jones, and he is slow in getting up.
Well, Clayton went out as well. Watch this ball, though, folks. It's a one-on-one situation. If you get it intercepted, no problem. But that ball goes off his face mask. He may have a face laceration from that one, but he's down as well. So you have Peoples, who didn't return from the locker room. You have Clayton, who has a hand hurt, and now you have this.
One of the few healthy guys left down there is Chris Plank.
Thanks a lot, Bob. I'm ready to suit up right now. Brandon Everidge is back on the sideline. Only problem, Dino, he's in street clothes. Looks like Brandon is done for the rest of the game. They're also looking at Jonathan Jackson right now, and Tommy Harris missed the first defensive series only to retape his ankle. He's fine. We'll try to get an update on Brandon Jones here in a moment, guys.
Brandon Jones still down there, walking it off in the end zone.
Well, it's a leg injury. You just hope it's an ankle and not a knee. And I'm telling you that the good part is that Oklahoma has 6 wide receivers that can really play. But Will Peoples is hurt. Mark Clayton, he's such a tough kid. You don't know what the left hand injury is, and this does not look good. So that's 3 of 6.
The one thing that can derail a #1 team at this stage of the season. 5:35 to go, 3rd quarter, after a long pause. And of course the ball goes over on downs to Baylor. They have not scored an offensive touchdown. Nobody has lately against the Sooners. This is the 11th quarter Oklahoma's played without giving one up. Screen to the right side. Shelton is surrounded. And that's going to be a loss of about 5 yards. Dusty Dvorak, Gay Ron Allen, the primary Sooners in there, and then all their buddies showed up to help out.
Well, Oklahoma's defense you're seeing no deep game from Baylor. That's the one thing that is really missing from their offense. And by virtue of that, Oklahoma is able to have a lot of people close to that line of scrimmage or into the backfield as they did on that play. Looked like Burdine jumped. He got back, and Corey Klein with the official jump.
Prior to the snap, offsides on the defense, 5-yard penalty, 2nd down.
Well, Bob Stoops got in the face of the offensive line before that 4th down, go for it throw into the end zone, and you can just imagine that brother Mike, maybe even Bob as well, jumped into the fray with the defense.
2nd and 10 now. Clock running under the 5-minute mark in the 3rd quarter. And the young quarterback angling toward the 40. That's where he had to get for the 1st down. Sean Bell chased out by Teddy Lehman.
Well, for a guy who is recruited as a pro-style quarterback, he shows some pretty good mobility here. You know, the recruiting services have gotten so big that I noted that he was the 37th pro-style quarterback in the country, one of the top 40 by another group, drop-back passers in the country.
How about that?
Oh, Lord.
High school kids rated pro-style quarterback. 3rd and 2, quick give, and the fullback straight through. That's Jonathan Evans. Larry Burdine, Matt McCoy, unable to stop a Baylor first down surge. They'll restart the clock. It'll run down toward the 4-minute mark about the time the Bears get off their next play. They can't put points on the board, but they've played OU pretty even for the last 15 minutes of this game.
Oklahoma always has more plays than the opposition. Right now, the Sooners have 2 more offensive plays than Baylor, and that should be surpassed in this series.
Low throw. Unable to grab it out there in the left flat, Jay Fields.
Pass is incomplete. Intended for Jay Fields.
Well, I'll tell you one thing you've got on the field today. You've got the 2 smartest football teams in the Big 12. Joe Castiglione crowing about the fact that Oklahoma's overall athletic program now is #1 in the Big 12 with a graduation rate of 74.5%. The football team is at 65%. The only one better is Baylor at 75. 2nd and 10 at the 41. Lots of time, running out of time, and then a missed tackle out on the flank. And again, it's Jay Fields on the receiving end there, ridden out finally by Antonio Perkins.
Another high percentage play by Baylor, not going down field. Almost get a sack here by Dan Cody, but he loses contain. And Rodney Poole dives at the receiver, and Oklahoma's defense is not playing up to its capability.
Fullback. They've been calling the number of big number 45, Jonathan Evans. He's a load, and he drags a bunch of guys with him for 5 or 6. Cody and Magruder trying to bring that big fella down. Jonathan Evans goes 6'1", 253. He's a junior out of Duncanville, Texas.
Well, not many backs do what he just did. Mike Stoops kind of throwing his arms up. Sometimes he just gets totally flabbergasted with a defense, and I think that's where he is right now. And we're sitting here being critical of a defense that still hasn't let a touchdown be scored upon it.
Teddy Lehman is all over Rashad Armstrong. Arms reaching, legs churning, and down goes the tailback for Baylor.
Having an all-star afternoon. Cody on the outside, number 80. Tries to turn it in, and he does, and that allows the linebacker to make the play. I'll tell you what, those guys work as well as a front unit, a front 7 as any team I've seen.
3rd and 6 for Baylor. 2.5 minutes to go, 3rd quarter. Oklahoma on top, 34-3. Play action. Up to the left side, and it's caught. Robert Quiroga, and the Bears will move the chains again on Quiroga's 2nd catch of the day.
First downs now, 13-10. OU leads, but Sooners aren't cranking them out very quickly, and Baylor is. At the last minute on that play, Derek Strait came up to the line of scrimmage and bumped coverage, and he rapidly got back, trying to protect against a receiver who could go deep on him. And that allowed the receiver, after he turned his back, to make the shorter route and a nice throw. They still haven't gotten the ball downfield, but they keep moving it, Bob.
Yeah, this is reminiscent of that long drive they had in the first half. Armstrong bouncing outside. Out of bounds after Matt McCoy forced him out. Flag is at the 19-yard line, 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage.
They're the defensive wizards. We haven't talked about Mike Stoops, Penalty Baylor, take them back. I didn't see what it was. Is that a 5-yard call?
Looks like it.
Illegal block on the offense. 15 yards penalty.
That's a big
from the
one.
spot of the foul. Still first down.
Chop blocks. Defenders don't like them.
Ooh.
And that is the reason that it is a big penalty and not a 5-yarder.
That's J.T. Thompson, the wide receiver.
Yeah, you can get hurt with that. But anyway, Mike Stoops on the sideline there a moment ago. There hadn't been much talk today about Mike, but he is the leading candidate, and it may be pretty far down the road, based on people I've talked to at least, about his chances at becoming the next head coach at the University of Arizona. He might be in the catbird seat because there are other schools that might have openings later, but I wouldn't be surprised if that deal happens soon and that he wouldn't be able to coach in the bowl game.
This is a 1st and 24. There's pressure. Escaping for the moment, Sean Bell. And he just has to use the sideline for his escape. And there's another flag on the play.
Well,
and they may have been holding all over again.
They were holding all over, but boy, those quarterbacks are slippery. The Sooner defenders are in the backfield, but they just can't close the play. Can't close the deal.
In basketball, we call this being all hugged up. With the quarterback improvising, offensive linemen trying anything they can do to corral these speedy Oklahoma defenders.
Hold on the offense. 10-yard penalty from the previous spot. We play first down.
I believe they've gotten out of field goal range. You know, the thing I like about that Arizona position for a guy like Mike Stoops is that I think it's a really good job. Pac-10 conference is not as tough as some of the others. A great recruiting base for offensive players. You know, he'll coach well defensively. But I think it's a great launching pad job for a guy like him to jump up to a big-time place.
1st and 34. And going up top, left side, and that is just beyond the reach of his #1 receiver, Robert Quiroga. Derek Strait pretty much with him step for step. And the clock stop with 1:35, third quarter.
One of the few times they've gone deep, and that one had a chance to be completed for I guess a touchdown. But
Yeah.
Derek Strait doesn't let many get past him like that.
That was about a half step off of being, if not a touchdown, inside the Oklahoma 5.
2nd and 34. You don't get many of those situations.
And they'll give it to the near side. Nowhere to go for Rashad Armstrong as Ron Allen came up to crack him down around midfield. And we'll be in the final minute of the third quarter by the time the Bears run another play or two. Loss of 2 on the play. Let's go back to the way back part of the playbook for our 3rd and 36. They've got to get to the Oklahoma 12, and they may have 2 plays to do it, depending on how they approach this thing. Final minute, third quarter. Way back at his own 35. And a screen pass to Iris Williams. He's trying to weave his way through the middle, and the play will end up gaining maybe 2 yards as Brodney Poole was there waiting for it.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't trap that guy, though, when you have 4 or 5 guys around him, if you don't trap him, he can cut back across the grain. And had Poole not been there, he might have squirted out and gotten to the wide side of the field.
Oklahoma with a timeout here. 22 seconds to go before we head to the fourth quarter.
This is one of those that you can come after this is one of those 4th and 38 jobs that if Baylor fakes the punt, if they don't kick it and they complete a pass, say, for 35 yards, you still have to give it up. You don't see that very often.
Kind of hard to tell your receiver to get right to the marker and then come back to the ball. May not be enough time. 22 seconds to go. And the ball, the nose of the ball, right at the midfield strike. We're about to close out a third quarter with no scoring. Oklahoma has outscored its opponents 107-34 in the third this year. They are going. It's a quick kick. And it's out of bounds. Probably inside the Oklahoma 15. It's all the way down to the 10. So a little quick kick call on fourth down. A play we don't see much anymore in college football, but a very effective one here. Chris Plank with 16 seconds to go, third quarter.
Hey, more injury updates, guys. The latest on Brandon Jones. They were huddled around him on the training table looking at his leg, but he is walking. Doesn't look like he's able to put a lot of pressure, though, on it.
On the leg or the ankle?
Unfortunately, we keep going down to Chris for injury updates.
Yeah.
Because of the new rules in place, there are a lot of things about injuries we can't find out these days. Inside give, Kewan Jones. Big hole, cuts outside, and he's out to the 20-yard line on one of Oklahoma's best rushing plays of the day. Clock stops to move the chains. Matt Johnson finally caught up with him from his defensive back position.
Nice job of cutting back against the grain, and you wonder, Quentin Griffin is up in Denver playing, and that's the type of play where he excelled and could make an 8-yard gain something much longer.
15 minutes left to go here in Norman. Third quarter, a scoreless one is over. It's the Sooners 34, the Bears 3. And Oklahoma, first down from their own 20. Not a whole lot going on there. We enter the fourth quarter of play with the Sooners on top by 31. Willie Andrews, Justin Crooks. I've been most impressed with Justin Crooks on the Baylor defense today. He's a 6-foot junior linebacker out of Round Rock, Texas. And he's made some big plays, and he's put some pressure on Jason White. This will be a 2nd and 7. Quick look to the near side. Travis Wilson escaping one man at the 27 and then breaking that play out to first down yardage before Matt Johnson caught up with it.
Bob, you mentioned his size a while ago. He is a big, strong, fast receiver, and he is a tough one as well. So obviously I'm high on him. He hasn't gotten a lot of catches this year, but that's a good example of what he can do. Strong hands, make people miss him. He knew where that first down marker is.
Just a sophomore. Rankins is a sophomore. Brandon Jones a junior. Mark Clayton a junior. 1st and 10 at the 32. White flushed out. He had a lot of time, and then the pocket kind of collapsed on him as he made his move to the left side. And Steven Sepulveda, the older brother of the kicker, Daniel, there to make that play for Baylor.
I think this is one of the few times this year you've seen Jason White. I guess he sensed something coming from his right side, but normally he'll just sit and sit and sit in that pocket. Sooners having to call timeout here, a little bit confused. But Bob, you think it could be because of the fact they've put so much pressure on him? He's been on his back half the day.
And I'll credit him for a couple of things several times. He has not forced anything.
Right.
When in trouble, he has eaten the football. Sooners by 31, 13:46 to go. .46 to go. Bob Carpenter, Dean Blevins, Chris Plank at Memorial Stadium in Norman. We had flags flying before an attempted play a moment ago.
No flag on the play. No flag.
No flag.
Well, I think the reason was they weren't quite ready for television to come back. They were holding it up. And
didn't stop them before.
Yeah, well, I realize that, but a player moved on the Oklahoma line, and the ball really wasn't put into play yet. So
it only counts if you move while we're back from commercial.
That's right.
13:46 to go. And nothing would be finer now than a nice, long, sustained Oklahoma drive. Eat this clock up, get some good things going offensively. It's been a rather arrhythmic second half for the Sooners. on a little slant that's Travis Wilson across the middle. It was 2nd and 16. That'll get the Sooners about 7 or 8 yards back on that 2nd down play.
The line has missed its share of blocks, but there have been a lot of busts or just running backs who have gotten beaten today. That time it was a nice job by Jones of hanging in there, although he got run over. These blitzes are wearing those backs out.
So they did get 8. It'll be a 3rd and 8 for Oklahoma. Look out, Jason White, and he is ripped down by Willie Andrews. Way back around the 20-yard line. And 2 minutes out of the 3rd quarter, the Sooners will have to kick the ball away.
Sloppy football right now. It's the only way you can describe it. It was a terrific start offensively for the Sooners, but it has been sloppy much of the time since then, particularly here of late.
Willie Andrews, who just got the sack, is the punt return man awaiting Blake Ferguson's kick. Plenty of time to set up. It's a high floater. Fair catch at the 39 or so. And that's where the Bears will take over with 12:25 to go. And they can take a lot of heart right now from the fact that they have come into the #1 team in the nation's house and played them pretty straight up for the entire 2nd half. Chris Plank downstairs, another update.
Hey guys, you know, it definitely, as you mentioned, has been kind of sloppy here in the 2nd half at times, but the one thing we do know is throughout the season Oklahoma's played outstanding football. In fact, so much so that of every major college football award there's possible, it seems like there's a Sooner on the list. In fact, there are only 2 major awards that don't include Oklahoma Sooners. That's the Doak Walker Award and the Ray Guy Award. That's it.
Good point.
1st and 10 at the 39. Coming out to the near side, Armstrong. Caught from behind as he crossed the 40. Bears will get about 2 or 3 on 1st down. Antonio Perkins and Teddy Lehman to finish it off.
Teddy Lehman, you know things are rough when he gets up kind of wobbly. He's had a long afternoon, though. He's had more snaps than he normally does.
Wouldn't expect things to be quite that physical against the youngest team in the Big 12. True freshmen listed on the chart for the Oklahoma game for the Baylor Bears, including starters Nick Pace at right tackle and Quincy Jenkins at defensive tackle. 16 freshmen, including redshirts, on the Baylor depth chart at this stage of the season.
One thing that has happened in favor of Baylor today is that they haven't been taken advantage of because of the turnovers. They've given up on the road an average of 1.6 turnovers on the average. Oklahoma a lot less.
Oklahoma timeout again. Confusion on the defensive side, getting set for a 3rd and 7. By the way, you saw the stats of Rashad Armstrong. 20 carries for 38 yards today. He's 7 short of 1,000. Trying to become only the 6th Baylor runner ever to do that in a season.
Walter Abercrombie.
He was a load, wasn't he?
Has to be one of them.
11:45 to go. 34-3 Oklahoma. 3rd and 7 for Baylor. A single back slotted to the right of quarterback Sean Bell. Low snap. Threw off the timing of the play. He's in trouble. Unloading it up for grabs. He got it out of bounds, so Oklahoma couldn't pick the ball off. Wayne Chambers with serious pressure.
I would say so. The ball was thrown from the 15, from the 40, so he was 25 yards back.
But it's funny how even something as minute as a low snap on a shotgun play seems to throw the whole timing of that thing off.
So does the fact that the defensive coordinator Mike Stoops was in the grill of all of the defensive players after the timeout.
Perkins at his 24. Quick cut to the near side. Now looking to cut it back. And 28, maybe the 29.
I think he's confident in his ability to accelerate. Maybe wrong, but I guess I've been injured enough, Bob, that I look out there and I think you're supposed to be injured all the time.
Yeah. Maurice Linguist speaking the right language on that play for Baylor. 11:23 to go. And Oklahoma at its own 29-yard line, trying to get a stagnant, stalled offense going here. Another chance to get that nice, long, time-consuming drive. 6 rushing yards for OU today. And up top, ball is a little bit overthrown there. On the pursuit of that was Mark Bradley. Didn't miss by much. C.J. Wilson, one of those freshmen out of Terrell, Texas, staying with the Oklahoma receiver.
Well, I don't know if that shows impatience or just the right thing to do to try to break things up a little bit. Trying to go deep. You've got a big play player on the outside. I like the call. It was pretty close.
2nd and 10. Ewan Jones on the inside give, and he's up to the 33 or so. John Garrett, Baylor linebacker, to wrap him up. 4 minutes into the 4th quarter, and quite honestly, not a whole lot going on in Norman right now. Sooners have not relied at all on the rushing game today. 290 total yards, all but 11 of those through the air.
We bragged on the 3rd down conversion rate. 3 of 11 only so far today for the Sooners.
46% coming in.
Blitz. Couldn't pick him up.
A slant, and that one is too tall.
Well defended.
His fist to the turf, Travis Wilson.
Yeah, well defended, a little overthrown, but a blitz was coming. So, again, there's not the cohesiveness that you want to see. And Bob, this is about as long a period as I can remember all year with this much indecision and just lack of production.
Now that ball is shanked by Ferguson. Straight out of bounds to his right. And this whole smooth running machine called Oklahoma football is out of sync right now. They're going to spot that ball at the Baylor 48-yard line. 10:27 to go. The Bears have the ball back. A fumble, Matt McCoy. And the reason we want to tell you that what's going on here, the officials, 34-3 game, 4th quarter, they're really not waiting for us to come back from commercial. They're letting them go ahead and play. And on a 2nd down play, on a carry by Rashad Armstrong of Baylor, the ball was ripped loose by Larry Burdine, and Matt McCoy picked it up, his first fumble recovery of the year. Sooners at the 48 of Baylor. 9:42 to go in the game. James Moses was the motion man there, and Kewan Jones goes streaking right up the middle for about 7.
You know, I think they've had a lot of serious meetings on the sideline, but I have a feeling that the last convention that was held with Kevin Wilson and his guys up front is, all right, man, we're going to pound it. This is ridiculous. We're going to hand the ball off, get the quarterback up under center, and let's move them out.
Sometimes it's time to get back to the basics, huh? 7 yards on 1st down, sets up a 2nd and 3. It's a Kewan again. Surging ahead, getting a little help from Vince Carter, the leader of that offensive line. An offensive line that has given up the fewest sacks in the Big 12 this year. And they'll tell you, Chuck Long and his bunch will, that every week it's a different bunch of guys from that offensive line who step up and have fantastic ball games.
Well, there's been some talk about Jamal Brown. I talked to him the other day about him coming out after this season. Personally, I don't think it'll happen, but that's how well he's playing.
White under center. Play action this time. Looking right side. Wide open is Mark Clayton. He's inside the 10. Out of bounds around the 8. C.J. Wilson finally caught up with him, but way too much real estate for a yak receiver like Mark Clayton.
That's right. That's right. So you run the ball a couple of times, you come back, play action, pick up the blitzer.
Isn't it amazing how one phase makes the other look so much better?
Yes, it is.
1st and goal at the 7. Clock stopped, 8:37 to go. Oklahoma trying to put the score into the 40s here. Out of the eye. Up top, Clayton leaps over the defender. Incomplete. Ahmad Rhodes in his way.
I sense that the coaching staff would like to get a touchdown pass or two for, you know, I know that's in their repertoire, but don't you think that they're looking for something like that? A fade route, one-on-one, and this ball was a little underthrown. Could have been intercepted, well defended, and it also could have been offensive interference.
Yeah, Clayton kind of turned into a DB there. Well, they get 13 yards on 2 running plays before the long pass to Clayton.
Last time he shifted them like this, they scored on a touchdown. They threw a touchdown pass.
Yeah, Sooners looking power right. Kewan Jones cracking down to the 2 and maybe the 1 before Maurice Lane knocked him down. That'll keep the clock moving. Oklahoma surging well on the ground on this drive. It'll be the back nose of the football at the 1-yard line.
It's Tommy Harris time. Get the big man in there, run that jumbo set, and hand it off.
Well, Kewan Jones in the backfield. Runnels in front of him, possibly leading the way here. They're going to toss it to the left. Kewan's going to crack it up, and he's going to score. 40-3 Oklahoma with 7:46 to go on Kewan Jones' 6th running touchdown of the year.
Well, it's been a while. This is really a nice job. He almost fumbled the pitch. Nice job, though, of Kewan Jones. If he had taken that ball any more east-west, he wouldn't have scored. But watch him at this point. He sees the defender, and he cuts it back, barely getting into the end zone. But it was not as easy as it looked.
Busy trade to Carlo Day. 41-3 Oklahoma in the final 8 minutes of this one. Well, that was a nice drive. Didn't consume that much time, but Chris Plank, the running game featured for the first time today.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting to really see the offensive line get fired up. You're right, there's been some animated discussions on the sideline so far, but the bottom line is they really grouped it together, and I wonder, Dean, might that be the last series that we see Jason White in this football game?
Well, good question. I was thinking the same thing, looking up at the clock, going 38 points, 7:46. 2 thoughts. One is Lupica, and 2 is, do you want to get your guys out of there and keep them healthy on a day that it has been a I don't know if disaster is the right word, because you don't know if you've scraped many off that won't be coming back, but there have been a number of players who have been hurt during this ball game. I don't know whether you keep them in or not. My suspicion is Bob would like to, but more than the Lupica factor would be the injury issue.
And on top of that, you've got Jason White with 307 passing yards today. Certainly another Heisman-esque performance when you look at his passes that have covered 25, 47, 9, and 20 yards respectively for scores.
And going over the injuries again, and really that has to be the story of the day. You have Brandon Jones. He has his right knee wrapped. You have Jonathan Jackson, trainers working on his left ankle. You have Peoples, didn't come out of the locker room, and I guess Everidge did come out of the locker room finally. Neither has played in the second half and looked to be like they could be somewhat serious. Everidge, the shoulder that he's always had problems with. Lehman came out and didn't play that last series. Who am I leaving out? There seems to be another, but that's 5 or 6 there for you. And Paul Thompson taking snaps. So if you're watching and only want to see Jason White, turn us off. But stay tuned, because this guy's fun to watch. Paul Thompson's got some ability.
Matt Johnson will take a knee in the end zone. 7:46 to go, and the Baylor Bears get things going from their own 20-yard line. Baylor actually had a little 3-game winning streak earlier this year. They lost to UAB and at North Texas. Then they beat SMU at home by a field goal. They actually beat Colorado, which was one of the shockers of the early part of the conference season, 42-30 at home. 41-3 Sooners here with 7:46 to go.
I knew I was leaving someone out. Perkins was the player I was leaving out. Corey Klein leading the bunch there. Michael Thompson out of Bristow is playing the corner position, field corner for Perkins.
And Dusty Dvorak not fooled at all by a draw play there. His 14th tackle for loss this year.
I was asking Bob Stoops the other day about Dvorak, and you know, would he be a guy that maybe second team all conference, or you know, just how good he is. I know he's good, but Bob said, you know what, he may be the second best defensive lineman in the conference.
Well, they're just happy he's healthy this year. That turf toe drove him nuts in the 2002 season. Baylor Bears are keeping the ball on the ground. Brent Venables saying yesterday that Dusty had to wear a shoe size that was 2 sizes too big last year. Couldn't push off, couldn't pursue. It was a miserable season for him. Man, it looked like Rufus Alexander getting in on a little action right there.
Yeah, Rufus had a good career in front of him. Probably still does, but he thought he'd be playing and be a factor right now, but he had a torn knee last spring.
3rd and 15 for the Bears, 6.5 minutes to go. Sean Bell, their young quarterback, swinging it right side. Oh, forget that one. Rodney Poole right there, and that is a tailback who's hurt. Rashad Armstrong took a big time shot. Richard is a few yards short of 1,000 with his 40-yard or so effort today, and he may not be in the mood to do a whole lot more after this.
Great defensive pressure here. You get the ball has to come out of the quarterback's hand just a little bit early, and Poole right on top of that one. He has terrific instincts, and he will be I just look at him as a freshman and say that guy's got NFL high round pick right in front of him.
Great field position awaits the Sooners here. Kind of a wobbly kick after the young kicker got a high snap. And it certainly has not been the kind of day for Daniel Sepulveda that he's had lately kicking the football. Oklahoma takes over at the Baylor 43-yard line with 5.5 minutes to go in the Sooners' 11th win of the year.
Well, it's always good as a backup quarterback to be able to come in with some of the first liners, some of the offensive line to protect you, and also have good field position.
Now the officials want us to take a break, so we will. 5.5 to go. It's all Sooners, 41-3. Paul Thompson in the quarterback for the Sooners, the 6'4" sophomore out of Leander, Texas. His first play was an inside give to Kewan Jones, who departed without the football. Kewan quick enough to put the brakes on and come back and recover the fumble.
Yeah, this is a little read play here and little mix-up. It often happens with a new quarterback.
They'll run it the other way this time, except the quarterback's going to keep it, and Thompson has a first down to the 30-yard line before John Garrett caught up with him.
Well, it's easy for the second-team quarterback to be the most popular player on the field, but it's also easy if he can spurt like this guy. Now, he gives the team a different dimension, and even though opponents will prepare 95% for Jason White, they have to be concerned about the things that he brings to the table.
Now, why are second-string quarterbacks so popular?
Well, just because if the first one doesn't play well, they're just hoping the second one does.
Everybody wants to see the new guy, huh?
That's right.
1st and 10 at the 30.
This guy has upside.
4.5 minutes to go. He's going to drop back, look, throw, air it, right side, double coverage out there.
Leo Ford,
yeah,
getting them all in.
Out of Ardmore.
For those keeping score, you have most of your receivers in, but when you run 3 and 4 receiver sets, you play with your receivers, so those are, you can't really play backups much. They have the only backup they can, mostly backup offensive linemen.
2nd and 10. And out to the right side, Travis Wilson with room. He'll stumble ahead.
He's strong, though. You see the strength.
Inside the 20. And by the way, we hope all of you fans around Sooner Country are enjoying tonight's replay. This game was not originally scheduled for television. The good folks at Cox Communications decided to step in and enable Sooner fans to catch some action, whether they were here at the stadium today or not. And we hope you've enjoyed it. Dean, it's been great to be back with you, buddy, and have Chris Plank downstairs as well. 1st and 10 at the 19 with 4 minutes to go. Thompson clawing his way. Flag flies from an official deep in the secondary, down by the end zone pylon.
First time I heard anything about Paul Thompson, Bob Stoops was the one who told me about him, and he said, you'd love this guy, watching him play basketball. He said he was at a game watching him one time, and he flew down the middle of the lane and jammed it back over his head. And you know, he's a 7'1" high jumper.
Yeah.
If you're a 7'1" high jumper, you have acceleration. He has a nice quick release. He throws over the top. He has very good velocity on the football. And then you have Rhett Bomar. Then you have Grady. It's pretty good competition. And then you may have the potential Heisman Trophy winner coming back. So that position is well stocked.
Nobody there to hand off to. Thompson smothered. Escapes for a yard or two to the 12. It'll turn into maybe a yard loss, as the second string quarterback wasn't real popular right there. Nobody decided to stay home with him. And it'll be 2nd and short for the Sooners with the clock running down to the end. 3:20 to go. Linguist and Sepulveda there for Baylor. You know, you've really got to tip your hat to Baylor, because they could have phoned this one in today. They've come up here and really battled.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that.
41-3 is going to look like a thrashing, but these kids really played hard today. Ball thrown low. Intended receiver Bradley. I don't think Guy Morris and his guys have a whole lot to be ashamed of today.
No, not a bit. Guy Morris, Kentucky, of course, for a couple of years. You see Brandon Jones with that problem with the knee, and Jason White alongside. Jason White had good numbers today.
Yeah.
Real good numbers.
That's a 2 out of every 3 completion rate for over 300 yards. No interceptions. 307 yards of Oklahoma's total of 364. I think Jason was just sitting there on the bench watching the game on the video screen.
You know, the coaches can't stand to see this. This isn't what happened against Texas A&M, where on the sideline they were saying, well, do we take a knee, or you know, we're going to make up a fullback handoff that we don't even have in the playbook, etc. There have been, you know, there's some sloppiness going on. There are some busted plays, and you just don't like to see that, whether it's your starters or backups. You'd almost rather be whipped physically than to bust.
2:20 to go. 4th and 5. Out to the right side for Wilson, nowhere near first down yardage, and the ball will go over to Baylor on downs on a good stop by James Todd. No, that should do it for the Oklahoma offense today, with 363 total yards, only 56 of them on the ground. Today's victory sends the Sooners to the Big 12 championship game Saturday, December 6th. For the latest information on travel packages, you can call 1-888-533-0074. You can also visit Soonersports.com. Purchase officially licensed Big 12 merchandise there as well. Just click on Sooners Official Fan Store. Lots going on with this football team. 11-0 now. And over the last nearly 4 seasons, this team has 47 wins, heading for its 3rd Big 12 championship, its 4th bowl game, and they will add to that total of 9 All-Americans during that time under Bob Stoops' leadership.
Well, the talent has just grown exponentially since he got on this campus, and you know, it's amazing. You have a group of 9 seniors, or I guess it's 14 seniors leaving, and so many of them were not really highly recruited, and they came in here, and all of a sudden you look and they're being drafted or they're, you know, all conference type players. And I guess that means two things, that they drafted or they recruited players better than most people thought, and they coached the heck out of them once they got here.
Yeah, I think the latter, Dean, because I know a lot of people said when Bob got here, well, he's got John Blake's players. Well, he did a lot more with those kids than the previous coach. Now he's got his guys in here, and it is a well-oiled machine, although I'm going to open up the paper a little nervously tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And wonder who's banged up,
yeah,
and how bad might it look for that Texas Tech game. That could be a little bit of a booby trap next week down there in Lubbock with that freewheeling offense.
This is probably the best thing that could happen for this team in going into that game, though. To get knocked down from that perch of maybe thinking that they could just walk out and rack up, now you can't say half 100, rack up 77 with no problem.
30 seconds to go.
And by the way, I don't know if when you pick up your paper and look to see the injuries, I don't know if you'll see many revealed.
Yeah.
There will be plenty, but I don't know what you'll be able to find out.
We're going to take a timeout to measure here with 28 seconds to go. Oklahoma going to 11-0, 7-0 in the Big 12 with a date next week at Texas Tech. And if I'm Bob Stoops, I may not want to watch the tape where Texas Tech played Oklahoma State. That was an absolute wild thing.
But
it shows what they're capable of doing. Even if you get them, you know, you could be up 28-7 at the half or 35-10. You still might have a game on your hands.
Well, it's tougher down there, but you've got to remember that the Oklahoma defense has stifled that offense more than any team that Tech has ever played.
Yeah, they're going to see athletes on the other side they haven't seen this year. Little give on 4th and 1. Doesn't look like they made it. And that'll do it. The game is over. 41-3 Oklahoma. Got way out ahead early. Battled through a rather moribund second half, but did get a score late, and they win it by 38. And how good is your football team when you play so-so and you win by 38?
Pretty good. And I think you're being kind by saying played just pretty good or played so-so. I don't think, you know, they had the explosion there, Bob, in the first quarter, but besides that explosion, it was not good.
Final numbers. 364 yards of total offense by the Sooners, 308 of it through the air. First downs, not a big deal. They did not turn the ball over today, which could have made things worse.
Well, and they are a great non-turnover team. They do not turn it over very much at all. Time of possession, there you see the loser once again with a 4.5-minute advantage. Doesn't matter.
82,117 saw it here in Norman today. I'd like to thank our Cox Communications crew and all the folks who made the telecast possible. We hope you Sooner fans enjoyed it. For Chris Plank and Dean Blevins, I'm Bob Carpenter. Sooners roll 41-3. They clinch a date in the Big 12 championship game, and Jason White, another big day. Lots of Sooner highlights and another W. We bid you farewell from Norman.